Welcome to Nocturnal Knowledge. Tonight, we're exploring How to Talk to Anyone About Anything by James W. Williams. Settle in as we journey through the complete text. If you enjoy this exploration, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more deep dives into the world's most influential books. Our journey begins now. So, where do we begin on this journey of learning how to talk to anyone about anything? Well, it all starts with you. Yep, it's time for a good, hard look in the mirror, because there's a reason why people say you can't love other people properly until you learn to love yourself first. It sounds philosophical, something you've probably heard before, but stick with me. We're going to make this actionable. Let's dive into the very foundations of who you are right here, right now. Your sense of self has to be clearly defined because it will literally dictate how you act in every single situation from here on out. You can either unconsciously let this happen, or you can be aware and in control. Don't worry, it will all make sense as we move forward. So let's get those mental juices flowing with a simple question: who are you? Just take a moment to consider whatever thoughts come to mind. Now take those thoughts and drop the basic identity stuff, your name, age, or your job. Now, how do you see yourself? What kind of person do you associate yourself with? What beliefs and values do you hold dear? We're jumping straight into the deep end here, I know. The book shares a personal anecdote that really resonated with me. When the author was 23, just starting to explore self-development, he remembers journaling one night, one of the first times he'd ever done it. He asked himself these very same questions. What did he believe in? What did he value? Who was he? Shockingly, he had no answers. He could only scrape the barrel for shallow responses. Things like, I believe it's wrong to murder people, or I believe gravity exists. He realized he didn't have a real sense of self. As the book explains, your sense of self is everything. It defines you. In psychology, it's the all-encompassing view you have of yourself, your beliefs, your purpose in this world, and who you truly are. And here's the kicker. If you don't know your own sense of self, how can you expect to be yourself when you're around others? Having a clear sense of self is a huge motivator. It gets you up in the morning because you're fully aware of your mission in life, the causes you're fighting for, you know where you stand, what matters to you. Now, that's not to say your sense of self can't change over time. In fact, if it didn't change, that could be unhealthy, commonly known as being stuck in your ways. But having some idea of your sense of self is absolutely vital. As the book emphasizes, you cannot be confident without it. To quote Erica Myers, a professional counselor, having a well-developed sense of self is hugely beneficial in helping us make choices in life. From something as small as favorite foods to larger concerns like personal values, knowing what comes from our own self versus what comes from others allows us to live authentically. Authentic living. Isn't that the dream? Well, it's not just a dream, it's a necessity. When you can learn to authentically be yourself with yourself, then you can begin to authentically be yourself with other people. You know how people say you can only really love others when you learn to love yourself? Well, we're playing on the same board as that idea. Being authentically you means you know you're not perfect and that nobody is, but you're willing to accept your flaws and simultaneously embrace your strengths because they define you more than anything else. A lack of a sense of self is a real problem. Without any idea of who you are or what you stand for, you'll find yourself drifting through life. You'll be uncertain, indecisive. Your life will lack momentum and drive. You'll feel anxious and unsatisfied, but you won't be able to put your finger on why because you don't understand what you want and what you don't want. Remember Kyle, the author's friend at his sister's wedding? In many ways, his whole sense of self had been derived from his marriage, and he didn't know who he was without it. When speaking with others at the wedding, he was drifting. Was he there to have a good time? To simply show his face and support his sister? Was he there to meet new people? Was he looking to date someone new or even to hook up with someone? None of these things are good or bad because it depends on the individual and their wants or needs. However, without understanding what those wants or needs are, Nothing can be done about them, and so the perpetual loop of anxiety continues. This all brings us nicely to an exercise. Don't worry, while it may sound a bit overwhelming, we're going to break it down and do this together. Take a pen and paper and title it Checking In with Myself. As the title suggests, we're going to check in and explore who you are right now. Make sure you're in a quiet place where you can be with yourself and hear your own thoughts. As defined by Healthline.com, your sense of self will fall somewhere on a spectrum. Either you have a solid, complete sense of self, none at all, or you fall somewhere in the middle. So let's figure out where you are. Ask yourself some of these questions and write down whatever comes to mind. It's easy to just skim over these action points and try to do them in your head, but if you want real change in your life, which is why you picked up this book in the first place, then actually take the time to do this activity and see what happens. If you're not proactive and actually doing something new, how can you expect anything to change? On to the questions. What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of person are you right now? How would you describe yourself? Do you believe you've changed a lot over the years? What things in life are you good at? What things in life are you not so good at? What are you passionate about loving? What are you passionate about hating? What kinds of relationships do you have in your life? What kinds of relationships do you want in your life? How in control of your life do you feel? You don't need to answer all these questions, but if you look at one of them and think it's a bit difficult, then I recommend spending a bit more time answering it because that's where you'll find the interesting answers. Try to be as honest as possible. Be aware that many of your answers will be influenced by how you see yourself as an individual and how others have told you they see you. For example, if your partner sees you as being lazy and always calls you that, you might start to believe you actually are lazy, even when you think deep down you're not. This is one of the ways you can acquire a false sense of self. This process is all about discovering your true sense of self, not just what other people and their views have forced onto you. The same applies in social groups, whether you're at school, in a friend group, with family, or in the workplace. You may act a certain way in order to fit in, but not actually be the person you're acting like. Try to cut through these false beliefs and write down who you actually think you are, for better or for worse. When you're done, take some time to read back your answers. Did you surprise yourself with what you wrote? Did things come up you hadn't thought about in a long time? Did you expect some of the answers? Did you tap briefly into a part of a past you that you had forgotten about or thought was lost? Good. No matter what came up, clarity is on its way. From here, take some time, maybe a couple of days or a week, to process what you wrote down. New ideas may come to you the more you think about this whole idea. So add them to your existing answers. You may change your mind or have more certainty with other points you put down. At the end of the week, read through everything once more and move on to the next step. With this information, like a phoenix from the ashes, it's time to be reborn as the true you. This isn't something that will happen overnight, but a continuous process that evolves into a lifelong journey. As you have new experiences and learn new things, your sense of self will change and adapt, and that's a beautiful thing. What we're doing now is creating that initial foundation on which to build. Set your values. Did you write down about how much you love animals or your passion for saving the planet? Well, it's time to start choosing cruelty-free brands and spending time getting more educated about the food you eat and the clothes that you wear. Did you write down how you value your health and looking after yourself? Well, it's time to start working out and eating well. Do you value relationships and experiences with others? It's time to call your mother and start organizing plans with friends. Do you value genuine people and honest relationships? It's time to start thinking about what you're going to do about that toxic friend you've been trying to ignore. Using the information you discovered about yourself in the previous section, you should be able to set at least some values that you believe in, all of which will then allow you to make choices in your life that you actually want to make. Life satisfaction and a sense of self will be derived from you making these choices. What's more, you can learn to cut out the things that don't matter to you and don't serve your beliefs and values. The author shares an example. He values connected relationships, but felt lonely and didn't address his needs, so he plugged the gaps with video games. Now, while he enjoyed computer games from time to time, he didn't enjoy playing them for 6 hours a day to stop himself feeling lonely. So he took action to only play for 2 hours on weekends and spent the regained time on his relationships. By making these proper choices, he naturally started to find balance in his life. Set your values, discover what matters to you, make the right choices. Your sense of self will come from this action. The only way you can figure out what matters to you is by having proper quiet time with yourself, allowing yourself to listen to your thoughts and process how you're feeling. It's so easy to have a bad day and just numb it all out with TV, Netflix, and social media, but how are you going to learn about yourself if you don't think about it? There are plenty of ways you can do this, whether you're a fan of reading or listening to music, or you can use some more hands-on self-help techniques like journaling and meditation. It's entirely up to you. And if you're not sure, try a whole bunch of different approaches to see what works for you as an individual. Finally, remember that your self-help journey doesn't have to be one you go through alone. If someone you loved was going through this journey themselves, then it's pretty safe to say that if they needed help or support, then you would help if you could. The same applies to you. People will always be willing to help you, especially if they're a loved one, but they need to know that you want the help first. If you're dealing with anything you can't seem to face, perhaps a mental health condition like having just spent time understanding the fundamental importance of defining your sense of self, we now move to actively building that sense of self. Remember my friend Kyle, who felt lost at his sister's wedding because his identity had been so intertwined with his marriage? We don't want to drift like Kyle. We want to be grounded, authentic, and confident. So let's put pen to paper, so to speak, and delve into some exercises for self-discovery. The book recommends starting with a dedicated journaling session, a checking in with myself moment. Find a quiet space, a place where you can truly hear your own thoughts undisturbed. As the book mentions, drawing from Healthline.com's definition, your sense of self exists on a spectrum, solid, non-existent, or somewhere in between. We need to pinpoint where you are on that spectrum. Don't just skim over these questions and try to answer them in your head. That's like trying to learn to swim by watching a YouTube video. To truly benefit from this, grab that pen and paper and write down whatever comes to mind as you consider these prompts. The book emphasizes that proactive engagement is key to real change. So, what are these crucial questions? First, what kind of person do you want to be? Notice that's different from what you think you should be or what others expect. What truly resonates with you? Then, contrast that with what kind of person are you right now? Be honest. This isn't about judgment, it's about awareness. How would you describe yourself not just in terms of surface-level traits, but in terms of your core values and beliefs? Do you believe you've changed a lot over the years? If so, how and why? Now, let's acknowledge your strengths and weaknesses. What things in life are you good at? And conversely, what things in life are you not so good at? We often downplay our strengths and amplify our weaknesses, so aim for a balanced and realistic assessment. Next, tap into your passions. What are you passionate about loving? What ignites your inner fire? Conversely, what are you passionate about hating? What deeply frustrates or offends you? Sometimes understanding what we don't stand for is just as important as knowing what we do. Consider your relationships. What kind of relationships do you have in your life? And what kind of relationships do you want in your life? Are your current relationships nurturing and supportive, or draining and toxic? Finally, how in control of your life do you feel? Do you feel like you're driving your own ship, or just being tossed around by the waves? The book acknowledges that some of these questions might be difficult, but that's where the real gold lies. Spend extra time on the questions that trigger a feeling of resistance, because that's often where the most profound insights are hidden. Be aware that your answers will be influenced by how you see yourself and how others have told you they see you. If your partner constantly calls you lazy, you might start to believe it, even if deep down you know it's not entirely true. This is how we acquire a false sense of self, shaped by external perceptions rather than internal truth. The goal of this exercise is to cut through these false beliefs, to strip away the layers of expectations and assumptions, and to uncover who you actually think you are, for better or worse. Once you've answered these questions, take some time, a couple of days, a week, maybe even longer, to process what you've written. Let the ideas percolate. New insights may emerge, and you might change your mind about certain things. Don't be afraid to add to your answers or to revise them as your understanding deepens. At the end of that period, read through everything once more. Did you surprise yourself? Did things come up you hadn't thought about in a long time? Did you tap into a part of a past you thought was lost? The book reassures us that no matter what came up, clarity is on its way. This process is more than just introspection. It's about transforming that knowledge into action. Think of this information as the seeds for a new you, ready to be sown and nurtured. This isn't a one-time event, but a continuous process, a lifelong journey of self-discovery and growth. As you have new experiences and learn new things, your sense of self will change and adapt, and that's a beautiful thing. What we're doing now is creating that initial foundation on which to build. Remember my own experience of realizing how passive I was, adopting different personas to fit in, living in anxiety and suppressing my true self? I craved freedom, and this is how I got it. The book encourages you to set your values based on what you discovered. Did you write about your love for animals or your passion for saving the planet? Then start choosing cruelty-free brands and educating yourself about sustainable practices. Did you write about valuing your health? Then start working out and eating well. Did you write about valuing relationships and experiences with others? Then call your mother and organize plans with friends. Did you write about valuing genuine people and honest relationships? Then start thinking about what you're going to do about that toxic friend you've been trying to ignore. By aligning your actions with your values, you create a sense of integrity and authenticity, which further strengthens your sense of self. It also helps you cut out the things that don't matter, freeing up time and energy for what truly does. Remember, as the book states, I valued connected relationships but felt lonely, so I plugged the gaps with video games. Now, while I enjoyed computer games from time to time, I didn't enjoy playing them for 6 hours a day to stop myself feeling lonely, so I took action to only play for 2 hours on weekends and spent the regained time on my relationships. The book then underscores the importance of having proper you time, quiet moments for self-reflection. It's easy to numb a bad day with TV or social media, but how can you learn about yourself if you never actually think about yourself? Whether it's reading, listening to music, journaling, or meditating, find what works for you and make it a regular practice. Finally, the book reminds us that this journey doesn't have to be solitary. If you're struggling, don't hesitate to seek help, whether it's from loved ones or from a professional counselor. There's no shame in needing support, and sometimes an outside perspective can be invaluable. So, as you embark on this journey of self-discovery, remember to be patient with yourself, be honest, and be open to change. Your sense of self is the foundation upon which all your relationships, including your ability to connect with others, will be built. Having just explored those exercises for self-discovery, where we dug deep into understanding ourselves, it's time to talk about how those discoveries translate into our everyday lives. It's not enough to just know ourselves. We have to live in alignment with that knowledge. This is where the concept of values and choices comes in, and it's absolutely crucial for not just better conversations, but a more fulfilling life. Think of it like this. We all have a compass inside us, constantly pointing towards what we truly believe is right and important. That compass is our values. But are we actually following that compass? Are our actions taking us closer to those values or further away? This book emphasizes the importance of aligning our values with our actions. If we value honesty, are we being truthful in our interactions? If we value kindness, are we actively seeking opportunities to be compassionate? It seems simple, but it's incredibly powerful. The author highlights the importance of making conscious choices based on these values. We often drift through life making decisions based on habit, convenience, or external pressure. But when we take a moment to pause and ask ourselves, does this choice align with what I truly believe is important? We become much more intentional in creating a life that resonates with our authentic selves. Values also play a significant role in our overall life satisfaction. When our lives are in harmony with our values, we experience a deep sense of contentment. It's like the pieces of a puzzle finally fitting together. However, when we consistently act against our values, we create internal conflict, which leads to dissatisfaction, anxiety, and even resentment. Think of a time when you felt really good about something you did. Chances are, that action was in alignment with your core values. Now think of a time when you felt guilty or regretful. What values did you compromise in that situation? This is the power of aligning your values with your choices. That's how we make choices. Perhaps one of the most impactful things we can do is to actively cut out things that don't align with our values. This could be anything from toxic relationships to unhealthy habits, or even certain career paths. It's about decluttering our lives, not just physically, but also emotionally and spiritually, to make space for what truly matters. It can even come down to the media we consume. Is that show or movie reinforcing ideas you don't actually believe in? Maybe it's time to let it go. This whole process is incredibly personal. What one person values, another may not. There's no right or wrong answer. It's about discovering what truly matters to you and creating a life that reflects that understanding. It's about being the most authentic version of yourself and having the clarity of mind to allow yourself to flourish. When we do that, we're not just living a better life, but we're also creating the foundation for richer, more meaningful connections with others. Because when we're true to ourselves, we attract people who resonate with our authentic selves, and that's where the magic truly begins. Now, having navigated the sometimes complex waters of values and choices, it's time to consider a critical component that underpins effective communication and genuine connection: you time. It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of daily life, constantly interacting with others, responding to demands, and fulfilling obligations. But how can we truly connect with others if we've lost touch with ourselves? The book emphasizes that the only way to truly understand what matters to you, your values, beliefs, and aspirations, is by dedicating intentional, quiet time to yourself. This allows you to listen to your own thoughts, process your feelings, and cultivate a deeper understanding of who you are and what you're fighting for. It's about creating space for self-reflection, where you can examine your experiences, identify patterns, and gain clarity on your direction in life. As the author says, allowing yourself to listen to your thoughts and process how you're feeling. This isn't just about relaxation, it's about active introspection. Now, it's incredibly easy to fall into the trap of numbing activities after a long day. Reaching for the TV remote, endlessly scrolling through social media, or engaging in other mindless distractions can feel like a welcome escape. While these activities may offer temporary relief, they ultimately prevent us from confronting our thoughts and feelings, and ultimately prevent us from developing that essential sense of self. As the book suggests, it's about consciously replacing these numbing activities with practices that cultivate self-awareness. If you are stuck in a rut, how are you going to learn about yourself if you don't think about it? So, what specific techniques can you use to cultivate you time? Well, the book highlights several powerful options. Journaling, for instance, can be a valuable tool for exploring your thoughts and emotions in a structured way. By writing down your experiences, reflections, and insights, you can gain a clearer understanding of your inner world. It's a way to have a conversation with yourself, to unpack your experiences, and to identify patterns that might otherwise go unnoticed. Meditation, on the other hand, offers a pathway to inner peace and clarity. Through mindfulness and focused attention, you can quiet the mental chatter and connect with your present moment. This practice can help you cultivate a greater sense of self-awareness, allowing you to observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment. There are plenty of ways you can do this, whether you're a fan of reading or listening to music, or you can use some more hands-on self-help techniques like journaling and meditation. But it's also crucial to acknowledge that self-help is not always enough. The book wisely advises us to get help if needed. If you're struggling with significant emotional challenges, mental health concerns, or overwhelming life circumstances, seeking professional help is a sign of strength, not weakness. A therapist or counselor can provide you with the support, guidance, and tools you need to navigate your challenges and cultivate greater well-being. Remember, everyone needs assistance sometimes, and admitting such can be the first step to betterment. So, we've been delving into the importance of carving out you time and understanding yourself better. Now, let's shift gears and dive into the heart of communication, listening. It might sound obvious, but the way we listen profoundly impacts the quality of our conversations and relationships. We're going to explore different listening styles because, as the book states, every relationship you have had, and will have throughout your entire life is based and founded on effective communication. And at the core of effective communication lies the ability to truly listen. Think about it. Has there ever been a time when you're talking to someone and you can just feel they're not really listening? They're glancing at their phone, fidgeting, or just generally seem preoccupied. It's frustrating, right? You don't feel heard or valued. So, let's explore how we can avoid becoming that person and become better listeners. The book actually simplifies the myriad types of listening into two main categories. The author points out research that indicates there are 18 different types of listening, including states of listening like biased listening, inactive listening, deep listening, empathetic listening, comprehensive listening, and so on. But for the sake of this material, the book breaks it down into only two categories of listening. The first is listening to respond. This, unfortunately, is the most common type. Think of it as a conversational tennis match. You hear a sentence or two and immediately start formulating your reply, eager to share your perspective. You're essentially waiting for your turn to speak instead of truly absorbing what the other person is saying. The author gives a great example from personal experience. A great example of this came up when I first dated my partner, and we went to visit her parents for the weekend. My partner had decided she would try a vegan diet after reading all the health benefits and didn't sit comfortably with the idea of eating an animal. Upon telling her dad, he replied, "Why do you want to do that? Meat is so good. You know you'll never be able to eat burgers again." This shows how he had made up his mind to respond in the manner in which he did. Now let's contrast that with listening to understand. This is where the magic happens. It means putting aside your own agenda, biases, and preconceived notions and genuinely trying to grasp the speaker's perspective. As the book suggests, the best, most meaningful conversations are based on everyone's aim within the conversation to understand each other, sharing what the facts are and why people think and feel what they do. By taking this approach, you begin to understand others as individuals rather than force your own narrative. Now, how do you actively listen to understand? The book lays out several key skills, all rooted in being present and attentive. First, give your full attention. This may seem obvious, but it's harder than it sounds. Resist the urge to check your phone, let your mind wander, or plan your response. A great trick I learned to help you keep focus is to concentrate on the center of your palm. You can do it now, and you'll notice how your attention travels there to the center of your hand. See how it makes your thinking stop and how much more focused you are? Try it in your conversations and see how effective it is. Make eye contact, face the speaker, minimize distractions. It's a conscious effort to signal that you value what they're saying. Next, hear the other person out. Avoid interrupting. Interrupting implies that your thoughts are more important than theirs, shutting down the conversation and preventing true understanding. This is an important technique to think about because interrupting is a missed opportunity to understand the other person, but it also sends the message that you don't respect the other person enough or feel like their opinions are not worth listening to, and however you're interrupting them is more important than them. This won't paint you in a favorable light. In addition, use your body to listen. This might sound strange, but body language speaks volumes. Turn your body to face the speaker, nod occasionally to show you're engaged in the conversation, and adopt an open posture. While I already mentioned making eye contact, you can do other things like turning your body to face the person who's talking, nodding occasionally, smiling but not excessively, don't want them to think you're weird, saying "aha" to show you're engaged in the conversation and want them to keep going, and adopt an open posture. Then, repeat back their points for clarity. Paraphrase what they've said, ask clarifying questions, and repeat key words. This shows you're not only listening, but also actively processing the information. If someone says, "I like chocolate because it's sweet," you show you understand by starting your next sentence with, "Because it's sweet, but which brand is your favorite?" It validates their perspective and encourages them to elaborate. And finally, then respond. Only after truly understanding their point of view can you craft a thoughtful and relevant response. Don't just jump back to your original agenda. Acknowledge their perspective and build upon it. The book states, don't worry about this last section so much, since the rest of the book is going to be dedicated to helping you know what to say in any situation, so we'll be covering this all in a lot more depth. Mastering these skills takes practice, but the rewards are immense. As the author explains, when you listen to others and respect what they have to say, most people will unconsciously do the same back to you. You'll forge deeper connections, build trust, and foster more meaningful relationships. So, let's consciously shift our focus from listening to respond to listening to truly understand.
Practical techniques for active listening. We've explored the importance of listening and the different types, realizing that listening isn't just one monolithic act, but a spectrum of engagement. Now, let's get practical. How do we truly become better listeners? How do we move beyond simply hearing words and truly connect with the person speaking? This book shares a quote from the Dalai Lama that really hits home. When you talk, you are only repeating what you already know. But if you listen, you may learn something new. That's the essence of active listening, a willingness to learn and understand, not just to formulate your own response. Now, the book proposes a simple breakdown: 2 types of listening. listening to respond, and listening to understand. Most people, unfortunately, fall into the first category. They're just waiting for their turn to speak, formulating their response while the other person is still talking. They're not truly engaging. But listening to understand, that's where the magic happens. It's about setting aside your own agenda and truly trying to grasp the other person's perspective. The book gives us actionable steps to cultivate this crucial skill, and the first, perhaps most obvious, is to give your full attention. Now, that seems simple, right? But how often do we really do it? The book challenges us to be honest with ourselves. Are we truly present, or are we mentally multitasking, thinking about our to-do list or what's on TV later? Giving full attention means minimizing distractions. Put down your phone, turn off the TV. As the book suggests, bring yourself back to the present when you find yourself drifting. One interesting trick the author shares is to concentrate on the center of your palm. He describes how doing so can help you focus. He says, you can do it now, and you'll notice how your attention travels there to the center of your hand. See how it makes your thinking stop and how much more focused you are. He suggests trying it in your conversations to see how effective it can be. Another key element is hearing the other person out. This means avoiding the bad habit of interrupting. Now, interrupting isn't always intentional, right? Sometimes we're just eager to share a similar experience or offer a solution. But interrupting, even with good intentions, sends a message that we don't fully value what the other person is saying. To avoid interrupting, the book suggests letting go of your own point. You don't hold on to your point, but let it go and respond to what the other person is saying. Wait until they finish speaking, and if you need clarification, ask a question, rather than jumping back to your original thought. Next up, the book explores how to use your body language to listen. It's not just about hearing the words, it's about showing that you're engaged. Make eye contact, turn your body towards the speaker, nod occasionally, and use verbal cues like to signal that you're following along. The author reminds us to smile, but not excessively. Don't want them to think you're weird. It's about finding that natural balance that conveys genuine interest. Finally, the book delves into repeating back their points for clarity. This is where active listening really shines. It's not just about passively absorbing information, it's about actively confirming your understanding. Paraphrase what they've said, using phrases like, "What I'm hearing is," or "It sounds like you're saying." Ask clarifying questions like, "What do you mean by," or "Do you mean?" This repetition of what the other person has said shows that you're taking on board and listening to what they have to say, meaning they'll feel like they can be a lot more open and connected with you. Only after you've actively listened and confirmed your understanding, the book explains, should you then respond. Don't fall into the trap of simply going back to what you wanted to say. Instead, address the key points they've made. Pause for a few seconds to show that you're thinking about their words, and then convey your points in the best way possible. The book reminds us that a later chapter will focus specifically on what to say in any situation. So for now, the focus is on mastering the art of listening. By actively listening and respecting what others have to say, you create a reciprocal environment where they're more likely to listen to you in return. The book sums it up nicely. Practice makes perfect, and even incorporating these points into your next conversation will make such an amazing difference. Try it for yourself. As a quick reference, when listening to people, you're going to want to focus on understanding the two types of listening, practice listening to understand, and avoid listening to respond. Give someone your full attention, never interrupt someone, listen with your body, not just your ears, repeat back key points the other person said, and respond to the point after everything else. Mastering these techniques is a journey, not a destination. It takes conscious effort and consistent practice, but the rewards, deeper connections, stronger relationships, and a greater understanding of the world around you are well worth the effort.
Advanced listening skills. Having explored practical techniques for active listening, it's time to delve into some advanced skills that can significantly enhance your ability to connect with others. These skills are about refining your focus and presence, creating an environment where genuine understanding can flourish. One critical element is minimizing distractions. Now, we live in a world saturated with them, don't we? Our phones buzz, notifications pop up, and our minds constantly wander to the next task on our to-do list. The book highlights a fascinating study by Larry D. Rosen, a PhD, who researched the impact of technology on students' concentration. He discovered that when surrounded by devices, students could only focus on studying for about 3 minutes at a time. 3 minutes! This underscores the profound effect distractions have on our ability to truly listen. Think about it. When you're trying to listen to someone while simultaneously checking your phone, are you really hearing them, or are you just waiting for your turn to speak? The book suggests practical ways to minimize these distractions. Put your phone away, turn off the TV, and close your laptop. Whether you're at home or at work, creating a distraction-free environment demonstrates respect for the speaker and allows you to fully engage with their message. It's about being truly present in the moment, giving them your undivided attention. It's about creating a space for them to really shine through. Another advanced skill is being free from judgment. This can be a tough one, as we all carry preconceived notions and biases. The book encourages us to be more open-minded and accepting of others' ideas. Consider this. How often do you find yourself formulating a response while someone is still talking, eager to refute their point or defend your own perspective? This isn't true listening, it's a mental battle. Being free from judgment doesn't mean you have to agree with everything someone says. It simply means approaching the conversation with curiosity and a willingness to understand. As the book implies, even if you ultimately disagree, listening with an open mind allows you to grow as an individual and to challenge your own assumptions. It's about accepting imperfections and accepting that not everyone is going to hold the same view as you, and that's okay. Finally, the book highlights the importance of asking the right questions. Active listening isn't just about passively absorbing information, it's about actively guiding the conversation towards deeper understanding. This is achieved through thoughtful and insightful questioning. We explored this a bit in the previous section, but this builds even further on it. Think of questions as navigational tools. They help you clarify points, explore different perspectives, and uncover common ground. But not all questions are created equal. Avoid questions that can be answered with a simple yes or no. Instead, opt for open-ended questions that encourage the speaker to elaborate and share their thoughts and feelings. By asking the right questions, you demonstrate genuine interest and create a space for meaningful dialogue to unfold. This is about understanding and the other person feeling understood. These advanced listening skills, minimizing distractions, being free from judgment, and asking the right questions are not just techniques, they're a mindset. They require conscious effort and a commitment to creating genuine connection, but the rewards are immense. Deeper understanding, stronger relationships, and a more fulfilling life. They make communication an art form.
The Conversational Toolkit: Direction, Clarity, and Understanding. Now that we've explored the power of advanced listening skills, let's turn our attention to the tools that truly shape the direction and depth of any conversation: questions. The book emphasizes that when it comes to talking to anyone about anything, the best strategy you can ever have by your side is being able to ask the right questions at the right time. It's not just about asking any question, but rather mastering the art of strategic inquiry. Think of questions as the steering wheel of a conversation, allowing you to navigate towards desired destinations. The author highlights 3 key elements questions provide: direction, clarity, and understanding. Let's unpack each of these. Direction, quite simply, is using questions to guide where the conversation goes. Instead of passively letting a discussion meander, you can use well-placed questions to steer it towards topics you find engaging or areas where you want to learn more.
Imagine, for instance, a coworker mentions they had a busy weekend. A generic response might be, "Oh, what did you do?" which could lead to a dead end. But a question with direction would be, "Did you manage to catch that new exhibit at the art museum? I've been meaning to go." Suddenly, the conversation shifts from a vague overview of their weekend to a specific topic, art. As the book suggests, it can really be anything that you want to steer the conversation towards. That's also a perfectly valid small talk topic, especially if it's something you share an interest in. You've taken control of the flow of conversation. Next comes clarity, and this element focuses on using questions to ensure you truly understand what the other person is saying. It's about digging deeper and avoiding assumptions. As the book suggests, this is useful for making sure you understood the other person correctly. You also make the other person feel like you really want to know more about what they have to say, thus making them feel more connected to you and more open with the topic at hand. Let's say someone mentions they're feeling stressed about a project at work. Instead of just saying, "That's too bad," you could ask, "What aspects of the project are causing the most stress?" This shows genuine interest and allows you to gain a clearer picture of their situation. Asking for clarity ensures you're not just hearing the words, but understanding the meaning and underlying emotions. The third element, understanding, goes even further. It's about using questions to make the other person feel heard and validated. This isn't simply about agreeing with them, but demonstrating that you're actively listening and empathetic to their perspective. This one is especially powerful because you can repeat back what they are saying to make them feel heard. Consider a friend sharing a difficult decision they're facing. Instead of immediately offering advice, you could ask, "So it sounds like you're weighing the potential benefits of option A against the potential risks of option B. Is that a fair assessment?" By summarizing their situation and asking for confirmation, you're showing that you're not just listening, but actively trying to understand their point of view. Now, it's crucial to remember that conversation isn't just about asking questions. The book rightly cautions against interrogating someone with a barrage of queries. The key is balance. You need to weave questions into a natural flow of statements, observations, and shared experiences. Think of it like a dance where questions lead and statements follow, creating a harmonious rhythm. The author gives an excellent example. From the book, taking the same introduction as the last example, you get the reply, "I got a new dog this weekend." How would you respond? Would you ask for its name, its age, the breed? The author explains that it's not just about going through the motions. Instead, think of better, more progressive questions. For instance, the author says a good response could be, "Oh yeah, how's he settling in?" That question requires a little more thought and begins to engage the person into more conversation. The person may say, "Yeah, not too bad actually. He's starting to chew the edges of the sofa though. He's quite young, so I don't know if he's teething or not." At that point, you can go back to thinking about the three elements we spoke about previously: direction, clarity, and understanding. And you can go in any direction you want. It's all about maintaining that balance. You don't even need to be speaking most of the time, meaning there's little effort or chances to get anxious on your behalf. So you've got much more to gain than you would imagine. Ultimately, mastering the art of asking the right questions with the right intention is a cornerstone of effective communication. It's about directing the flow, ensuring understanding, and making the other person feel genuinely heard. By balancing these elements with thoughtful statements, you can transform ordinary conversations into meaningful connections.
Having just navigated the intricacies of the conversational toolkit, direction, clarity, and understanding, we now arrive at a pivotal point in our journey: initiating conversations. It's no longer enough to just have the tools. We must know how to use them effectively, right from the first words. So, let's dive deep into the art of initiating conversations with thoughtful questions. As the book emphasizes, we want to move beyond the mundane, the generic "how are you" and "beautiful day, isn't it?" While they have their place, they rarely spark genuine connection. The goal is to craft questions that immediately engage, invite deeper responses, and set the stage for a meaningful exchange. Think about your own experiences. How many times have you been asked, "How are you?" and responded with a rote, "Fine, thanks," without even pausing to consider the question? It's a conversational dead end. The book nudges us towards questions that demand a little more thought, that pique curiosity and reveal something about the other person. Initiating conversations isn't a one-size-fits-all affair. It requires adapting to different environments. Consider the nuances of networking events versus a casual dating scenario. At a networking event, a simple "what do you do?" might suffice as a starting point, but it's crucial to elevate it, to make it your question. Instead of the flat "what do you do?" how about "what's the most exciting project you're working on right now?" Notice the difference? One invites a dry job description, the other a glimpse into passion and current endeavors. Or think about a date. The book offers some fantastic conversation starters, questions designed to reveal personality and compatibility. Instead of a boring "what are your hobbies?" try "are you a morning or night person?" It's light, reveals lifestyle preferences, and allows for humorous anecdotes. Or "what song or artist do you never get tired of?" Music is a fantastic shortcut to understanding someone's soul. But it's not just what you ask, but how you ask it. According to the book, direction, clarity, and understanding are essential, even from that first initial question. Let's say you're at a networking event and you overhear someone mention they work in marketing. Instead of a generic, "Oh really, what kind of marketing do you do?" you could use that clarity lens and ask, "I've been reading about the shift towards AI in marketing lately. How's that impacting your day-to-day work?" That demonstrates you're not just making small talk, you're genuinely interested and informed. The book stresses the importance of open-ended questions, those that can't be answered with a simple yes or no. Open-ended questions invite storytelling and create conversational pathways. Instead of "do you like to travel?" ask, "What's the most memorable trip you've ever taken and what made it so special?" This immediately opens the door to a richer, more engaging exchange. But let's talk about appropriateness. The book wisely cautions against diving into overly personal or sensitive topics too quickly. You wouldn't, on first meeting, launch into a discussion of someone's political views or a financial situation. That's a recipe for discomfort and a quick exit. The key is to gauge the environment and the individual, to sense their level of comfort before broaching deeper subjects. The social hierarchy plays a massive role too, the book reminds us. Important considerations when asking questions. Having just explored the concepts within initiating conversations with thoughtful questions, we now transition to the next idea. And it's not just about firing off a rapid series of well-crafted inquiries. It's about being mindful and strategic in your approach. There are several important considerations to keep in mind when wielding the power of questions. Considerations that can make or break the flow, the connection, and the ultimate success of your conversation. First, and perhaps most importantly, is knowing when to stop or change direction. Conversations are living, breathing things, not rigid interrogations. As the author points out, you don't want to interrogate someone by bombarding them with questions. Imagine you're talking to someone about their weekend, and they mention they went hiking. You ask about the location, the difficulty, the views. But their answers are short, almost reluctant. Maybe they're tired, maybe they didn't enjoy the hike as much as they thought they would, or perhaps they aren't in the mood. Whatever the reason, continuing to pepper them with questions will only create discomfort. It's crucial to be sensitive to nonverbal cues, to changes in tone, and to the overall energy of the conversation. Learn to recognize when you've reached a dead end, or when the other person is signaling a desire to move on. When you get to this point, it's time to change direction. The book also touches upon a somewhat sensitive but undeniably important consideration: understanding social hierarchy and adapting your language accordingly. Now, the author emphasizes that it kind of sucks that we can't just be ourselves around everyone, and I understand that sentiment. But the reality is that effective communication often requires adapting your style to the specific context and the person you're addressing. You wouldn't talk to your boss the same way you talk to your best friend, right? Similarly, the questions you ask and the language you use will need to be adjusted based on the other person's position, background, and level of formality. The author gives the example of a client who has a fancy manner about them, and they are more likely to react more positively to, "Ah, yes, we're very excited about the project here. What are your thoughts on it so far?" Then, "Yeah, the project's looking good. You excited to get going?" It's not about being inauthentic. Instead, it is to use your emotional intelligence to adjust how you speak in a way that makes a more positive impression. A vital principle to remember, however, is to always try to keep your questions as open-ended as possible. Think of closed questions as conversational speed bumps. They tend to elicit one-word answers, stifling the flow and limiting the potential for deeper exploration. "How are you?" is fine, but "what was the highlight of your week?" invites a more thoughtful, engaging response. It gives the other person space to elaborate, to share their perspective, and to reveal more about themselves. So ditch the yes or no questions whenever possible, and embrace the power of what, who, how, and tell me more. Finally, let's address the importance of timing. Asking the right question at the wrong moment can be just as detrimental as asking the wrong question altogether. Imagine you're attending a funeral. In a somber moment during the after-party, do you burst in with, "What'd you have for dinner?" It would be shocking, insensitive, and downright inappropriate. Conversations have their natural rhythms, and it's crucial to be attuned to those rhythms. Pay attention to the prevailing mood, the context of the situation, and the other person's emotional state. Avoid asking highly personal or sensitive questions too early in a relationship. Build trust, establish rapport, and let the conversation unfold organically before delving into deeper, more intimate topics. Timing, as they say, is everything.
So we've been diving deep into the world of asking questions, learning how to craft them, when to ask them, and what purpose they serve within a conversation. But what about before you even get to the questions? What about that critical moment, the very first impression you make? That's what we're going to explore now. As the book suggests, first impressions always count. It's a bit of a cliché, but a cliché for a reason. Think about it. How do you want to be perceived in the eyes of others? After all, you have more control over it than you might realize. Now, while a good appearance can go a long way, dressing well, ensuring good hygiene, we're focusing here on the more interpersonal, conversational aspects of making a positive first impression. The book breaks down the process into two critical, interconnected concepts: reading the room and writing the room. Let's start with reading the room. Remember being back in school and the teacher would call in sick, so a substitute teacher would take over? I remember having one in my French class. For the first few lessons, everybody would behave and stay reasonably quiet. While this was quite unconscious, it's clear that we were trying to suss out whether the teacher was incredibly strict or a bit of a pushover. As we became more comfortable and pushed the limits, we started to misbehave, which most children do, more and more. As soon as it was clear the teacher was trying to be a cool teacher and wasn't going to crack a whip in our direction for the slightest problem, the class slowly began a descent into chaos. The same logic applies in our own conversations and interactions. Reading the room in this context means assessing the other person's state and personality as you begin interacting. It's about being observant and attuned to the cues they're giving off. As the book asks, what kind of tone of voice are they using? What clothes are they wearing? Are they busy? Are they at work or relaxing? Do they look stressed out? Are they smiling?
How firm is their handshake? All these factors contribute to your understanding of the person and the situation. Not everyone is easy to read, of course. You might instantly know the kind of person you are talking to, especially if they're very forthcoming. Alternatively, you may need to gauge a little and start the conversation flowing to really get a feel for who this person is and therefore how you're going to effectively communicate with them. For example, if someone is withdrawn, are they shy or are they trying to hide something? The situation you're in will provide a lot of context. The trick here is to look past what the person is saying and instead read their body language and all the other factors we just spoke about. Research shows that around 55% of all communication happens through body language and 30% happens through tone of voice, so be conscious of it. The book lists some examples to consider. Posture. Is someone's head up and confident or unsure and looking at the ground, avoiding eye contact? Appearance. Crossed arms, hands in pockets, biting lips. These are just some of the signals you can look for. Observing these traits will help you read the other person. The next concept, riding the room, is about taking control of your own presentation and demeanor based on what you've observed. It's about adjusting how you are perceived. As the book emphasizes, people will respond to you how they perceive you are speaking to them, so adapt how you talk for the best results. Once you start getting to know someone and go deeper with them, you can start showing more of yourself. If someone is looking shy, stressed, or sad, you might want to approach them in a nicer, more compassionate way than you would normally. It's about empathy and adapting your approach to create a comfortable and positive interaction. Be mindful of how you're portraying yourself in the eyes of others, and you'll get a reaction based on what you do. This gives you full control of a situation when talking to anyone, which is going to make you feel far more confident in your abilities to talk to someone. And finally, let's not forget the importance of trusting your gut instinct. Even if you're finding it hard to read someone, the book reminds us your gut instinct is usually right when it picks up on cues, so trust it. Research even shows that people who are more tuned into sensing their body sensations make better, more successful decisions. If you have a feeling and your body makes you feel a certain way, it's trying to tell you something, so let it guide you. Listen to that inner voice and intuition. They can often be valuable guides in navigating social situations.
So, you've mastered the art of making a strong first impression, understanding that subtle dance of body language and self-presentation. But what comes next? How do you actually initiate that connection, turn that initial spark into a full-fledged conversation? That's what we're diving into now, breaking the ice and making the first move. Let's face it, for many of us, this is the hardest part. There's that fear, that nagging voice whispering doubts. What if they reject me? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I make a fool of myself? The book acknowledges this very real hurdle. There's no denying, it says, that so many of us put so much pressure on breaking the ice and making the first move, almost certainly to the extent that so many of us are so afraid to speak first that we end up not speaking at all. Think about that for a moment. How many opportunities have you missed simply because fear held you back? The book highlights that we often magnify the potential for rejection, imagining the worst-case scenario, when in reality, most people are just as eager for connection as we are. It's about shifting your perspective, recognizing that striking up a conversation isn't an imposition, but an opportunity for mutual enrichment. To counter this fear, the book proposes a powerful strategy. Indirectly approach someone for something, for some reason, and have this reason clear in your head at all times, but don't make it a long-term reason. What does that mean in practice? It's about having a clear, immediate objective that takes the pressure off. Instead of thinking, I need to impress this person so they'll like me, you might think, I'm genuinely curious about what they think of this event. This shift in focus can be incredibly liberating. Start small. Think, hey, this person seems nice. I'll ask if they want to FaceTime or go for dinner. Asking someone to go to dinner is way smaller a commitment than thinking long-term, And you don't even need to have the pressure of this kind of event if it's too much. Think of it like this. You're not building a skyscraper, you're simply laying the first brick. The book encourages us to create a reason to speak to someone, even if there isn't one. This isn't about being manipulative or insincere, it's about actively seeking opportunities for connection. It's about understanding that most interactions will not be the most important ones you'll ever have, so relax and try to have fun with them. Consider these icebreakers suggested in the book. Do you have the time? Where's the closest bank? Is the food good here? What time is the show starting? Have you seen this movie before? I love the music here. Do you know anyone here? These seemingly simple questions serve a crucial purpose. They provide a low-stakes entry point into a conversation. They're invitations, not demands. They offer the other person an easy way to engage, without feeling pressured or overwhelmed. And remember, the goal isn't necessarily to forge a deep connection right away. It's simply to initiate a dialogue, to break the ice, and see where it leads. Starting small isn't just about the questions you ask, but also about the commitment you're making. Dating offers an excellent example. There's a whole taboo subject that you need to have game when trying to ask someone out. You need to be slick and have tactics to make it work. But this isn't real life, and it's not going to get you where you want to be. Instead of setting long-term goals from the start, thinking this way means you're putting far too much pressure on yourself, because if you're rejected, it's going to hurt. It recommends easing into the experience, even if it means FaceTime or dinner. As you practice these small approaches, you'll start to build confidence. Each successful interaction, no matter how brief, will reinforce the idea that striking up a conversation isn't as daunting as you once thought. And as your confidence grows, so too will your willingness to take slightly bigger risks, to ask more engaging questions, to share more of yourself. So, we've just explored the art of breaking the ice and making that crucial first move. Now, let's delve into what happens next. How do we transform that initial contact into a genuine connection? This is where the real magic begins, as we explore how to find common ground and build lasting rapport with anyone you meet. The key, as the book emphasizes, is identifying similarities. Think of it like this. You're two ships passing in the night, and finding a shared hobby, passion, or even a shared opinion is like discovering a hidden harbor where you can both anchor and explore together. It's about finding that common language, that shared experience that instantly bridges the gap between two strangers. Are they wearing a band t-shirt? Strike up a conversation about their music. Do they have a book tucked under their arm? Ask them what they're reading. Perhaps you both find yourselves waiting in a long line. Commiserate about the wait and share a funny observation. It's these small, seemingly insignificant moments that can spark a meaningful connection. But identifying similarities is only half the battle. Once you've found that common ground, it's essential to cultivate it. And that's where the mastery of mirroring comes in. Mirroring, as the book emphasizes, involves subtly mimicking the verbal and nonverbal cues of the person you're talking to. It's a delicate dance, not a blatant imitation. Think of it as a subtle echo, a way of signaling that you're on the same wavelength. If they speak slowly and deliberately, subtly adjust your pace to match. If they use their hands expressively, allow your own gestures to become a little more animated. This mirroring extends beyond just physical cues. It also encompasses their language and tone. Do they use a lot of slang? Subtly incorporate some of their phrasing into your responses. Do they speak with a warm, friendly tone? Match their warmth and enthusiasm. This mirroring creates a sense of familiarity and comfort, making the other person feel instantly more at ease and connected to you. The book perhaps uses an analogy of a chameleon adapting to its surroundings, not in a deceptive way, but as a natural way of building rapport. And mirroring isn't just about actions, it's about actively agreeing and vocalizing that agreement. Have you ever noticed how good it feels when someone validates your opinions or experiences? The book stresses the power of verbalizing agreements, of letting the other person know that you understand and share their perspective. "Oh, I totally agree. That happened to me just last week." Vocalizing that agreement isn't just a polite gesture. It's a powerful tool for building rapport. It's like saying, "I see you, I hear you, and I understand you." But perhaps the most critical takeaway from this section is the importance of finding what the other person is truly connected to. It's not about imposing your own interests or forcing a connection, but about genuinely seeking to understand what matters most to them. It's about being curious, asking thoughtful questions, and truly listening to their responses. The key, the book might emphasize, is to find that spark, that passion that ignites their soul. Think about it. Everyone has something that truly excites them, something that makes their eyes light up and their voice quicken with enthusiasm. It could be their work, their hobbies, their family, or their beliefs. When you tap into that passion, you're not just having a conversation, you're sharing an experience. You're connecting on a deeper level, forging a bond that transcends mere small talk. This is where the magic happens. This is where you move beyond simply talking to someone and start truly connecting with them. Because ultimately, finding connection and building rapport isn't just about mastering techniques. It's about genuine human interaction and a sincere desire to understand and appreciate the unique individual in front of you. And that, more than anything, is the foundation of any meaningful relationship.
And so, having explored the concepts within finding connection and building rapport, we now transition to what to do when you don't quite connect immediately. Those conversational roadblocks that can derail even the most promising interactions. What happens when you're faced with someone who's withdrawn, seemingly uninterested, or even downright difficult to talk to? It's in these moments that certain specialized techniques can truly shine. The book introduces the idea of elicitation, a communication strategy developed by the FBI for interrogation purposes. Now, before you envision yourself as a hard-boiled detective, understand that this isn't about forcing information out of someone. Instead, it's about creating an environment where the other person feels comfortable enough to open up and share, even if they're initially hesitant. As the book describes, elicitation is the process of getting people to share information that they are holding on to by using statements that guide the person into speaking, even if they don't really want to. One particularly useful form of elicitation involves using compliments. Think about it. Human beings, while complex, are really rather simple when it comes to how we work, the book states. We're social creatures who are instinctively wired to receive praise and recognition from others because it shows we're being accepted into a larger group. A sincere compliment can be a powerful way to break down barriers and create a more positive and receptive atmosphere. Something as simple as, "I really like your coat, it suits you," or "Damn, I love how hardworking you are," can work wonders. By focusing on a positive attribute, you're essentially signaling that you see and appreciate the other person, which can encourage them to reciprocate with openness. Another, perhaps surprisingly effective elicitation technique is complaining. Human beings love to mutually dislike someone, whether it's an opposing sports team, the gray weather, or just a mutually shared situation, like having to stay late after work to get a project completed. It's a fascinating insight. Commiserating over a shared frustration can create an instant bond, a sense of us against the world. Studies even show that the average person complains multiple times a day. The book references activelibraries.com, which rates starting a conversation as the #1 reason for complaining in the first place. The book then offers a fascinating perspective by referencing crime thrillers and detective series. Think about it. Even in the high-stakes environment of a police interview, detectives often use elicitation tactics to encourage suspects to talk, even when they are reluctant to do so. Consider an episode where the detectives say things like, "We don't need to get the lawyers involved, it's all pen-pushing and a lot of hassle," or "We know these situations can be stressful, just relax, we're just chatting," and "You're a smart guy, Jesse, you're a kind, caring guy, we know you only want to do what's right." They're offering subtle compliments and assurances to create a sense of trust and encourage the person to share information. The key takeaway here is that even when faced with conversational obstacles, there are strategies you can employ to guide the interaction in a more positive direction. Whether it's through the power of a sincere compliment or the shared bond of a well-placed complaint, these elicitation techniques, borrowed from the world of FBI interrogation, can help you break down barriers and connect with even the most challenging individuals.
Having navigated the potential obstacles that might derail our conversations, let's now delve into the core strategies that underpin successful small talk. It's worth noting that, much like the art of listening, mastering small talk is a journey of continuous refinement, a lifelong skill you can always improve. With billions of people inhabiting this planet, there will always be a fresh approach to connecting with someone and a new conversational technique to learn. However, we can boil down the art of small talk to just 4 core foundations that everything else is built upon. The author points out that the first 3 are concepts we've already explored: asking open-ended questions, practicing active listening, and minimizing distractions. So what's the 4th, perhaps mysterious foundation? Any guesses? It is, in fact, demonstrating enthusiasm, bringing genuine energy into your conversations, showing you're passionate about what you're saying and about the other person, resonating with vibrancy in your interactions. The book emphasizes that you can talk about almost anything, and it can be engaging as long as you demonstrate enthusiasm. Small talk on the surface might not appear to be the most intellectually stimulating activity in the world, but as the author notes, that's only the generic small talk we've all become so painfully used to. Showing genuine energy and enthusiasm for connection can be a powerful gateway into building a deeper relationship, no matter the topic at hand. It helps the person you're speaking with feel comfortable enough to open up and be themselves, further nurturing a meaningful bond. The book challenges us to try it out for ourselves. Even if you just act enthusiastic about even the most mundane conversations, you'll see a turnaround in how you connect with people. The author prompts you to imagine a standard conversation with someone in your life, and now imagine that same conversation with 3 times the enthusiasm, and imagine how they'd react. The author isn't suggesting that you need to be overly energetic in every situation or to give 10 times the energy when you're talking about traffic. It's about picking your moments and choosing your places to go all in. Adding this degree of energy to your conversations is about your attitude and your intentions. When you go into any conversation, professional or personal, friends or family, lovers or children, if you have the mindset that you want to know more about this person, or you just want to have fun or learn something new, suddenly you'll start viewing human interaction in a completely different way, and subsequently, life changes. You'll soon realize that there are endless people to meet,
infinite views and perspectives to learn from, and countless fun stories and experiences to share. But how do you actually do it? It can be a challenge to inject enthusiasm into a conversation, especially if you're not a particularly energetic person by nature. Going above and beyond how you would usually be may make you feel disingenuous or as though you're not being yourself. And this feeling of inauthenticity, the author reminds us, is a direction you want to avoid. You want your energy levels to be genuine. Fortunately, there are practical ways to achieve this. Firstly, act more energetic. Even adjusting tiny details in the way you converse can make a significant difference. You can speak a little louder, not shouting of course, and you can vary your tone of voice to make it more engaging to listen to. The author suggests emphasizing certain words and adjusting your inflection to make what you're saying more interesting to listen to. The book provides a very clear illustration. Compare these two sentences. "I got a new cat over the weekend," versus, "Oh my, I got my new cat over the weekend and she's so cute." The emphasis on key words and the slight adjustment in tone brings so much more power to your words. You can, of course, amplify your body language to enhance what you're saying as well. For example, instead of saying, "Well, you have two choices, A or B," you can use your hands to highlight the options, indicating them right for A and left for B. It's not about actually pointing at anything, but you're amplifying the fact there is a choice to be made and two options to choose from. Overall, this kind of action makes the conversation seem more interactive and engaging. Secondly, highlight how you feel. The author stresses that you don't need to agree with everything everyone ever says to you for them to like you. In fact, it's better if you surround yourself with people of opposing views because it helps you stop being stuck in your own ways. There will be things you disagree with, just like there will be statements that resonate with you. And whichever you feel, it's important to highlight that this is how you're feeling. This is one of the best ways to bring energy into a conversation because it's a great way to simply be yourself. The book gives more examples here. "Yes, I completely agree. You worded that way better than I ever could." Or, "I'm so glad you brought that up. I feel the same." Or even, "Wait, you're interested in that too?" But honesty can be equally invigorating. "I see what you're saying, but I'm the opposite. I love XYZ." Or even simply, "I really don't agree with you. I really feel like." The author points out how much energy statements like these can bring to a conversation and how validating it will feel for the other person. The key? Be genuine and say how you feel. When you're open and honest, the conversation becomes less placid and passive and instead is more direct and assertive. The book also provides some additional, more general advice. Exert natural energy, it advises. The author isn't here to tell you how to live your life on a healthy level, but it's common knowledge that if you look after your body, you naturally have a ton of untapped energy that will naturally rise up in the way you live your life. This means exercising regularly, eating well, drinking lots of water, and getting enough sleep each night. If you look after yourself, you'll naturally have more energy. Finally, surround yourself with the right people. Of course, you're not going to be around positive, happy people at every waking moment of your life, nor would that necessarily be healthy. Sounds like some weird cult thing, the author jokes. However, you do need some stable, positive people in your life that you spend regular time with if you want to adopt these personality traits yourself. Negativity is physically and mentally draining, and you're not going to feel energetic or on the ball in any sense if you feel depressed and drained. So, seek out and spend time with people who fill you up with energy, make you feel good, and consistently don't bring toxicity and negativity into your life.
Now, as we've started to grasp these core strategies of small talk, asking open-ended questions, proactively listening, and minimizing distractions, we arrive at a crucial fourth pillar: enthusiasm. Think of it as the secret ingredient that elevates a simple conversation into something truly engaging. Showing energy and vibrancy, it's about more than just saying the right words. It's about how you say them. You see, small talk, let's be honest, can sometimes feel a little flat. But that's only the generic paint-by-numbers small talk we're all painfully familiar with. Injecting energy and enthusiasm can be a gateway to building deeper connections no matter what you're talking about. It helps the other person open up, be themselves, and that nurtures a meaningful relationship. Even if you act enthusiastic, even about the most mundane topics, you'll see a positive change. Try it in your mind right now. Picture a standard conversation you have regularly. Now, imagine that same conversation with 3 times the enthusiasm, the sparkle, the genuine curiosity. How would the other person react? The book points out, and it's so true, that it's not about giving 10 times the energy when talking about traffic or needing to be this way all the time. It's about picking the right moments and places to really go all in. A big part of this comes down to your attitude and your intentions. If you go into any conversation, professional or personal, with the mindset that you genuinely want to know more about the other person, or simply want to have fun or learn something new, your entire perspective on human interaction changes. Suddenly, you realize there are endless people to meet, infinite viewpoints to learn from, and countless stories and experiences to share. And isn't these very values that brought you to this book in the first place? So, how do you actually do it? How do you bring this enthusiasm to the table? It can be hard, especially if you're not naturally an energetic person. Exaggerating your usual self can feel fake, like you're not really being authentic. But the point isn't to become someone else, it's to unlock the potential within you. The key is to let your energy levels be genuine. One simple yet powerful technique is to act more energetic. Adjusting volume is a key element, not shouting, of course, but speaking a little louder, varying your tone of voice. Adjust your inflection on certain words. Instead of saying, "I got a new cat over the weekend," try, "Oh my, I got my new cat over the weekend and she's so cute." Highlighting how you feel means showing the other person excitement, and you can see how that can bring so much more power to your words. It's all about the emphasis, it is about the tone of voice. This isn't to be fake, but to be excited. You can amplify your body language too. Instead of a flat, "Well, you have 2 choices, A or B," use your hands to highlight those options, physically indicating left for A and right for B. It doesn't require grand gestures, but amplifying the conversation through your physicality, that kind of action makes the conversation seem so much more interactive. Another crucial element is to highlight how you feel. The book makes an important point. You don't need to agree with everyone about everything for them to like you. In fact, surrounding yourself with people with opposing views can actually be beneficial, helping you avoid getting stuck in your own echo chamber. There will be things you disagree with, just like there will be statements that resonate with you. And whichever way you feel, show it. This is one of the best ways to bring energy into a conversation, because it's all about being yourself. Think about how much energy statements like these can bring to a conversation. "Yes, I completely agree. You worded that way better than I ever could." Or, "Wait, you're interested in that too?" Even, "I see what you're saying, but I'm the opposite. I love." By being genuine and openly sharing how you feel, conversations become less bland, less passive, and more direct and assertive. Finally, and this perhaps goes without saying, exert natural energy. Now, this isn't to lecture on healthy living, but it's common knowledge that if you look after your body, you'll naturally have more untapped energy that will surface in how you live your life. I mean, exercise regularly, eat well, drink lots of water, get enough sleep. If you nurture your physical well-being, you'll naturally have more energy to bring to any interaction. This doesn't require you to change, but to boost the natural energy. Also, The book offers a word of advice. Surround yourself with the right people. Now, you're not going to be around happy people all the time, or that would be unhealthy. It sounds like some weird cult thing happening in that world. However, you do need some stable people in your life that you spend time with if you want to adopt these traits. Negativity is physically and mentally draining, and you're not going to feel on the ball if you feel depressed and drained. That just won't happen. Surround yourself with people who fill you up with energy, make you feel good, and don't bring toxicity.
Having explored the power of enthusiasm in our last discussion, we now arrive at a truly practical aspect of connecting with others, mastering the art of small talk. Because let's face it, as useful as enthusiasm is, you need something to be enthusiastic about. And that's where knowing what to talk about and what not to talk about becomes essential. This chapter, as the book states, is about mastering small talk. Now, the book doesn't shy away from acknowledging that small talk, at its worst, can be generic and uninspired, but it emphasizes a perspective shift. It's not about avoiding small talk, but elevating it. The author boils this down to 4 core foundations, and it starts with things we already know: asking open-ended questions, practicing active listening, and minimizing distractions. The real secret sauce, the 4th foundation, is showing enthusiasm. As the text says, you can talk about anything and it can be engaging as long as you have enthusiasm. Think about it. You can be talking about the most mundane subject imaginable, like the weather. But if you inject genuine interest and excitement, it transforms. Enthusiasm, according to the author, is a powerful gateway into having a deeper relationship, no matter what you're talking about. It's about being genuinely yourself regarding your interests. Even if you are just acting enthusiastic, he says. Act more energetic, he suggests. The book recommends even adjusting tiny details in the way you converse to see a difference. You can amplify your body language to enhance what you're saying, or just slightly adjusting what you're saying can bring so much more power to your words. Highlight how you feel, the text also urges. Of course, knowing what topics to approach helps. The book offers a useful list of engaging small talk topics that can serve as reliable go-tos. These include talking about the immediate environment, the coffee shop you're in, the concert you're attending, food, restaurants, and cooking. Everyone eats, right? Then there's travel, sports, hobbies and passions, art, and favorite local places. The idea isn't to rattle off this list, but to use it as a springboard. Find that connection point. As the book points out, you're listening carefully, you can pick up clues that can help you identify which topics are best to engage in. This is the skill of discovering engaging small talk topics. In other words, a lot of times it's about using what somebody says to figure out what they like. As the book notes, people will give you topics to talk about in everything they say because they're already thinking about themselves and how they perceive the world at all times. However, just as important as knowing what to talk about is knowing what to avoid. The book offers a cautionary list of topics that are generally best avoided, especially in initial encounters. These include finances, religion, politics, death, and sex. These subjects, while potentially meaningful, are often fraught with potential for offense or uncomfort. It also cautions against personal life gossip, offensive jokes, and commenting on someone's physical appearance. The key is to be respectful and avoid anything that could make the other person feel uncomfortable or judged. There's also the risk of getting stuck on a limited conversation topic. The book advises if someone doesn't seem interested in the topic of conversation, switch it up. Don't be afraid to shift gears and find something that resonates with both of you. You're not there to lecture, you're there to connect. After all, we are trying to be conversational and be a likable person here. The goal is to leave a positive, lasting impression by ending things well. It's a good idea to practice and rehearse some key exit lines you can always fall back on to leave a positive, lasting impression. And finally, the book emphasizes the importance of practicing small talk. It's a skill that improves with repetition. Talk to the cashier at the store, the person behind you in line, the man at the bar, or the class teacher after the lesson. The more you engage in these interactions, the more comfortable and confident you'll become. As the book so succinctly puts it, If you want to get good at swimming, you need to spend time in the pool. The more you practice, the easier it will become to engage in meaningful conversations and build genuine connections with others.
Having navigated the exciting landscape of engaging small talk topics and being mindful of what to steer clear of, we now arrive at a critical junction, putting these ideas into practice. Knowledge alone is not enough. It's the consistent effort and application of these principles that will transform your social interactions. Think of it like learning to play a musical instrument. You can read countless books on music theory and technique, but until you pick up the instrument and practice, you won't produce a symphony. Similarly, with small talk, you need to actively seek opportunities to hone your skills. As the book suggests, it's about keeping your eyes peeled. This means consciously choosing to engage in brief conversations whenever the opportunity arises. That quick chat with the cashier at the grocery store? It's not just a transaction, it's a chance to practice. The person behind you in line at the coffee shop, a potential conversation partner. The goal isn't to launch into a deep philosophical debate, but rather to practice initiating and maintaining a light, pleasant exchange. Now, this might feel awkward at first. It's easy to get caught up in your head, worrying about what to say or whether the other person is interested. But this is where another key concept comes into play: pretending you're already friends. It's a bit of a mental hack. Imagine how you'd interact with someone you know and trust. You'd likely be more relaxed, more open, and more genuine. Try to channel that energy into your initial interactions. This doesn't mean divulging your deepest secrets to a stranger, but rather approaching them with a sense of warmth and familiarity. As the book subtly implies, it's about lowering your guard and treating people as if they're already on your team. It can drastically change your perspective and make you more approachable. Now, the journey to becoming a skilled conversationalist isn't always smooth sailing. You're bound to stumble, to say the wrong thing, or to experience those dreaded awkward silences. This is where patience becomes your greatest ally. Be patient with yourself. Mistakes are an inevitable part of the process. Don't beat yourself up over them. Instead, view them as learning opportunities. Analyze what went wrong, what you could have done differently, and then move on. Each misstep brings you one step closer to mastering the art of conversation. It's like learning to ride a bicycle. You fall a few times, but eventually you find your balance. To help guide your practice, it's helpful to set conversational objectives. What do you hope to achieve with each interaction? Are you simply aiming to be polite and friendly? Or are you hoping to make a genuine connection, to learn something new, or even to expand your network? Having a clear objective helps to focus your efforts and to measure your progress. As the book alludes to, it's similar to going into a meeting. Know what you want to accomplish, and it will help you navigate the conversation more effectively. And finally, let's talk about ending conversations. This is an often overlooked aspect of small talk, but it's just as crucial as the beginning. Practicing ending conversations strongly is a key skill to develop. A graceful exit leaves a positive, lasting impression and increases the likelihood of future interactions. It's about leaving people wanting more. As the book implies, having a few go-to exit lines can be incredibly helpful. Something as simple as, "It's been great talking to you," or "I really enjoyed our conversation," can leave a positive impact. You can also add a forward-looking statement, such as, "I look forward to seeing you again," or "Let's connect on social media platform." The goal is to signal that you're ready to move on, while also expressing genuine appreciation for the other person's time and company. Think of it like the closing scene of a movie. You want to leave the audience with a sense of satisfaction and closure. In essence, mastering small talk is a journey of continuous learning and practice. Keep your eyes open for opportunities, pretend you're already friends with people, be patient with yourself, mistakes are a part of the process, set conversational objectives, and practice ending conversations strongly. By embracing these principles, you'll transform your social interactions and unlock your potential to talk to anyone about anything.
And now, building directly on those skills honed in practicing small talk, we arrive at a critical concept: taking ownership of the situation. It's about far more than simply being present. It's about actively steering the ship of conversation, even when, and perhaps especially when, the waters get a little choppy. So often, that feeling of dread, that anxiety that creeps in right before we approach someone new, stems from a sense of being out of control. We worry about saying the wrong thing, about being judged, about the dreaded awkward silence. In essence, we relinquish ownership of the interaction before it even begins. The book argues that the antidote to this is to consciously and deliberately take command of the situation, to project confidence even if you don't quite feel it at first. Think about charismatic figures you admire. What is it about them? It's not necessarily raw talent or innate brilliance. More often than not, it's their ability to manage their own nerves and exude an aura of calm assurance. They project that they belong, that they have every right to be part of the interaction, and this, in turn, puts others at ease. The book directly asks, what's the one thing that the charismatic people in your life have never been? And it answers, nervous. They have a way of managing their nerves, so they are confident and believe that they are supposed to be a part of the interactions they're in. Now, how do we manage those pesky nerves? A key is to reframe your focus. The book suggests that charismatic people avoid placing too much pressure on the outcome of the interaction. When your sole focus is on impressing someone, on getting a date, on landing a deal, you become hyper-aware of every word, every gesture, and you inevitably become more anxious. It's that roller coaster feeling. Is it going to be fun or scary? Instead, the authors encourage you to shift your attention to the process of the interaction itself, to truly listen, to engage genuinely, to find common ground, and simply to enjoy the company of the person in front of you. It's that old motivational quote come to life, really. It's about appreciating the journey, not just the destination. What's powerful here is the paradox that arises. Paradoxically, when you're not focused on the outcome, there's less pressure. You'll naturally be more charismatic and confident. Claims. Less pressure allows for a genuine connection. You're not operating from a place of neediness, you're approaching the other person with curiosity and generosity, willing to contribute to a shared experience. If someone only focuses on the end result of the conversation, they cannot be actively listening. And then, if they can't listen, they will not be a good conversationalist. Imagine that job interview again. Instead of obsessing over whether you'll get the job, the ultimate outcome, focus instead on presenting your skills and experience with clarity, making a genuine connection with the interviewer, and learning more about the company. By doing so, you alleviate the pressure, allowing your personality to shine through, and, ironically, increasing your chances of success. This reminds me of something a stage actor once told me. The best performances happen when you forget the audience. Not in a dismissive way, of course, but in the sense that you become so immersed in the character and the story that the self-consciousness melts away. The performance becomes more authentic, more engaging, and ultimately, more captivating for the audience. Taking ownership, therefore, is about embracing the present moment, managing your anxieties by focusing on the interaction,
not the outcome, and projecting the confidence that you belong in the conversation. It's a skill like any other that requires practice and self-awareness, but the rewards are immense. It's the foundation upon which genuine connection and meaningful relationships are built. Relatability and making connections. So we've taken ownership of the situation, understanding that our mindset and actions directly impact the conversational landscape. Now let's dive into making genuine connections with the people we encounter. It's about building bridges of understanding, creating rapport, and sparking a genuine interest in each other. This isn't about manipulating anyone or putting on a show. It's about fostering a sense of shared experience, a feeling of, I get you. The book really hones in on the idea that relatability is key. Think back to your own experiences. Have you ever felt instantly comfortable around someone, like you'd known them forever, even though you'd just met? That's the power of relatability in action. One of the most effective ways to establish relatability is through thoughtful questioning. It's not about rattling off a list of generic inquiries. It's about asking questions that genuinely reveal who the other person is, what they value, and what makes them tick. The book argues that questions enable you to guide the conversation in whichever direction you want, helps you acquire clarity on what the other person is saying, and helps you find common ground and similar interests. For example, instead of a bland, "What do you do?" try something like, "What gets you excited about your work?" Or, "What's the most interesting thing you're working on right now?" These types of questions invite more than just a one-word answer. They open the door to a deeper conversation and a better understanding of the other person's passions. Now, a crucial distinction: connecting versus broadcasting. It's easy to fall into the trap of just talking about ourselves, our achievements, our interests, without truly considering the other person's perspective. Think about the example of the guy at the blood donor session in the book who was rattling on and on about his swimming achievements. It's a common mistake. The author felt he was just an audience, not a participant. The goal is to shift from monologue to dialogue, to create a back-and-forth exchange where both parties feel heard and understood. This requires active listening, of course, and then building upon what you've heard. Relate their experience back to your own by highlighting any similarities, as you'll remember reading about earlier in previous chapters, but not by one-upping, not by showing the light back to yourself, but to show them that they are being heard. Perhaps the person says, "I love reading history." You might respond with, "That's fascinating. I've always been drawn to biographies. I just read one about Winston Churchill and it completely changed my perspective on leadership." Notice the connection. History, a shared interest, which leads to a personal anecdote, which invites more conversation. It's not just about stating a fact about yourself. It's about weaving it into the conversation to build rapport. Finally, a seemingly small but incredibly important detail: remembering people's names. The book quotes Dale Carnegie, stating, "A person's name is the sweetest sound in the world to that person." It's a simple act of respect and recognition, and it can make a world of difference in how someone perceives you. Make a conscious effort to remember names, repeat them back to the person when you meet them, and use them naturally in conversation. Create associations. Make a rhyme if you are feeling silly. The effect is powerful. By weaving in relatability, focusing on connection rather than simply talking, and remembering people's names, you can make sure that when you are talking, that people want to listen.
Building upon the foundation of relatability and connection, we now arrive at a crucial element in mastering the art of talking to anyone about anything: the power of humor and giving. These elements, when wielded effectively, can transform ordinary interactions into memorable and meaningful experiences. Let's begin with humor. It's more than just telling jokes. It's about creating a shared moment of levity and understanding. However, humor is subjective and context-dependent. As the author suggests, it's about reading the room and understanding what kind of humor is appropriate for a given situation. A raunchy joke might kill at a bachelor party, but it's likely to bomb at a corporate board meeting. It is important to be aware of the energy within the room and to be respectful of who you are talking to. Consider, for instance, a networking event. You wouldn't start cracking self-deprecating jokes right off the bat. A more subtle approach, like a witty observation about the event itself, could be a better icebreaker. This requires being attuned to the mood and adapting your humor accordingly. But humor is only half the equation. The concept of give, give, give is equally critical. This isn't about material gifts, it's about offering something of value in every interaction. The author emphasizes offering full attention to the person you're speaking with. This means being truly present, listening actively, and showing genuine interest in what they have to say. As we covered before, this means putting down your phone and not thinking about your thoughts, truly taking everything in. It also involves offering sincere compliments. Notice something genuine you admire about the person or their work and express it. "I really admire your presentation style," or "That's a beautiful scarf, it really brings out your eyes," can go a long way in creating a positive connection. The key, of course, is sincerity. People can spot a fake compliment a mile away, and it will likely do more harm than good. The author underscores a fundamental principle. The trick here is first to put the other person in the center of your attention. This means genuinely focusing on their needs, interests, and perspectives. Make them feel heard, valued, and understood. Ask questions, listen attentively, and show genuine curiosity. Now, let's circle back to humor. While the author doesn't provide a definitive guide to making people laugh, because, let's face it, humor is incredibly personal, he alludes to some key principles. Observational humor, witty remarks, and self-deprecating jokes, when appropriate, can be effective. Remember, it's not about being a stand-up comedian. It's about creating a lighthearted and enjoyable atmosphere. Try to be more clever with what you have to say. If you can say what people think while telling an easy-to-get joke, you will do well. Finally, the author touches upon the importance of politeness and honesty. These values form the bedrock of genuine connection. Be respectful, courteous, and truthful in your interactions. Avoid gossip, negativity, and insincere flattery. Speak your mind honestly, and do not be afraid to share your thoughts in a way that others are able to be on the same page. It can be a fine line, of course, between honesty and being blunt. The author says, try to adapt the way you talk and the questions you ask in a way that will be most effective to the listener. Talk in a genuinely fancy way is going to make them connect with you far more than if you fill your sentences with slang. By consistently prioritizing these principles, understanding the power of humor, giving more than you take, and embracing politeness and honesty, you can cultivate genuine and lasting relationships. You will be able to bring positive energy into each conversation. People like to be happy, and if you are that positive energy for them, you will be remembered. Having explored the empowering world of humor and gift-giving in conversations, let's turn our attention to a fundamental aspect of confident communication: the illusion and then reality of confidence itself. It might sound counterintuitive, but often the key to becoming confident is to act as if you already are. This isn't about being inauthentic, it's about leveraging the very way your brain learns and adapts. We're going to look at how to gradually build that confidence and hardwire your brain to naturally feel it. This concept is rooted in a principle you might not expect to find in a self-help book. the Hebbian principle. You may wonder, what does neuroscience have to do with chatting up a stranger? Well, everything, actually. The Hebbian principle, often summarized as neurons that fire together, wire together, is a cornerstone of how our brains learn and create habits. Basically, every time you do something, even think about doing something, tiny neural circuits in your brain light up and start firing, sending signals to make that thing happen. Imagine you're lifting your arm. You think about it, those circuits activate, and voila, your arm goes up. Now, the more you allow those neural links to happen, the easier it becomes. The brain craves efficiency, and it loves habits. Krigelson.com says the Hebbian principle suggests is that the human brain likes the easy life, and this is why so many of us have habits. After all, so many of us perform habits. You've done them so often that you do it without thinking, so the brain saves energy and just does, rather than spending all its time thinking. If you lift your arm repeatedly, that pathway becomes well-worn, effortless. You don't even have to think about it. This is where the fake it till you make it strategy comes in. You see, you can trick this system to develop new habits, even new states of mind, simply by consistently acting as if you already embody them. If you get up every morning, look in the mirror, and act as your most confident self, portraying the level of confidence you want, and even actively talking to yourself as that confident person, something amazing starts to happen. Over time, you literally become more confident. You're firing up those circuits associated with confidence and reinforcing them with every action. It's as if you're actively hardwiring your brain for confidence. Tony Robbins understands this implicitly. He actually has a mini trampoline he jumps on just moments before heading in front of the crowd in order to build up his energy and get his blood flowing, so when it comes to showtime, he's already in the high-energy state of mind he needs to be in to deliver. But it's not just for public speaking. The same applies with all areas within your life. How do you get started? First, define the type of person you want to be, the level of confidence you aspire to. Then start practicing in your free time. Imagine your interactions with people and how you would react. This might mean practicing in front of the mirror every day for 5 minutes or experimenting with different styles of confidence. As you gain that level of confidence from acting confident, it can be great practice to watch movies and TV shows and see what kind of people you resonate with to define your style of confidence. It could also be useful to do the same with people in your life. This way, you're taking steps to actively integrate this newfound confidence into your everyday situations. The goal here isn't to become a completely different person, but to amplify the confidence that's already within you. It's a process of unlocking your potential, one confident step at a time. As you consciously practice and reinforce these new neural pathways, you'll find that what started as an act becomes increasingly natural. The fear diminishes, the self-doubt fades, and genuine confidence begins to bloom. The beauty is, this method doesn't just work for confidence. It can be applied to any skill, habit, or trait you want to cultivate in your life. So get out there, start faking it, and watch as you truly make it, one conversation at a time.
So we've explored how faking it till you make it taps into the Hebbian principle, essentially rewiring your brain through repeated actions and thoughts. But what if you find yourself stuck in a loop of negativity, unable to even pretend to be confident? This brings us to a crucial element in mastering conversation and building genuine connections: overcoming the limiting beliefs that hold you back. These limiting beliefs, as the book points out, are those thoughts that stop you from living the life you want to live and hold you back. They whisper doubts in your ear, sabotage your efforts, and ultimately crush your confidence. Think about it. Have you ever avoided striking up a conversation because you were convinced the other person would find you boring? Or maybe you hesitated to share an idea in a meeting, fearing it would be dismissed as foolish. Those are your limiting beliefs at work. The book emphasizes the importance of becoming aware of these saboteurs.
And while long-term strategies like journaling, meditation, and counseling are powerful tools, there's a quick little exercise we can do right now to unearth some of these hidden obstacles. Grab a pen and paper and imagine a scenario where you're about to meet someone for the first time. It could be a new client, a stranger at a coffee shop, or an unfamiliar situation where you need to interact with people you barely know. Picture it clearly. Now start jotting down all the negative thoughts that surface. Are you worried they'll think you're weird or annoying? Are you overly conscious of your physical appearance? Do you fear they won't like you, or even worse, will talk down to you? Just let the thoughts flow freely, uncensored, and write them all down. These, laid bare on the page, are your limiting beliefs. They're the thoughts you need to challenge and overcome to unlock your conversational potential. The book rightly points out that you will need to work through these individually, and there are plenty of resources out there to help you. Think about it. Maybe you discover, like the author, a fear of being seen as unqualified or uninformed, a classic case of imposter syndrome. Recognizing it is the first step towards finding strategies to combat it. It's not just about dismissing these negative thoughts, but rather understanding where they come from and challenging their validity. Are they based on actual experiences, or are they simply insecurities dressed up as facts? Are you holding yourself to an impossibly high standard? For me, it was when I was getting started, I remember a lot of, "I can't do that," or "I'm not good enough." I know that that thought process can take a hold of people quickly, so it is important that you recognize that your negative self-talk is just a phase and can be combated easily. Now, while addressing these deeper-seated beliefs takes time and effort, one of the most immediate and effective ways to boost your confidence is by focusing on the positive. Channel the inner energy that you have and really put that to use. As they say, focus on the positive. And this doesn't just apply to your thoughts. Now that we've explored how limiting beliefs can hold you back from connecting with others, let's shift our focus to something more tangible: body language. You see, communication isn't just about what you say, but how you say it. It's the unspoken language of confidence, interest, and connection, all wrapped up in how you carry yourself. The book emphasizes adopting confident body language, and one technique it touches on is power poses. Now, you might be thinking, power poses sounds a bit cheesy, but hear me out. Think about it. How do you feel when you're slouched over, shoulders slumped, eyes glued to the floor? Probably not too powerful, right? But what about when you stand tall, shoulders back, head held high? It's a subtle shift, but it can make a world of difference. As the book suggests, mirroring Amy Cuddy's research, even adopting a Superman pose for just a couple of minutes before a nerve-wracking meeting can actually lower your cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone, and increase testosterone levels, which indicate confidence and willingness to take risks. It's like a little shot of self-assurance right when you need it. But body language isn't just about standing tall. It's also about what you do with your hands. The book calls it getting hands-on, and it's not about getting literally hands-on, of course, but about using your hands to emphasize your points, to add flair and personality to your communication. Think about a conductor leading an orchestra. Their hands aren't just flailing around, they're guiding the music, shaping the emotion. Similarly, your hand gestures can help guide the conversation, making your words more impactful and engaging. Research, according to the book, backs this up. Listeners have a more positive connection with speakers who use their hands to express themselves. Just be mindful of what your hands are doing. Fiddling with your clothes, touching your face constantly, these can signal nervousness or disinterest. So channel that energy into purposeful gestures that complement your words. And then there's the window to the soul, eye contact. This is crucial. As the book points out, consistently avoiding eye contact can project a lack of confidence or even a sense of dishonesty. But it's not about staring intensely at someone either. A Texan study quoted in the book found that people on average make eye contact between 30 and 60% of the time. But if you're looking to make an emotional connection with someone, then you're gonna need to up this to about 60 to 70% of the time. That sweet spot is key. If direct eye contact feels too intense, try focusing on one eye, or even the bridge of their nose as the book recommends. It creates the illusion of eye contact without the discomfort of a constant stare. It's about finding that balance between genuine connection and creepy intensity. Finally, let's talk about communication speed. In this case, slower is better. According to the book, speeding up when we speak is usually a sign we're nervous and anxious. Learning to find your own rhythm gives you a chance to collect your thoughts and articulate them clearly. It also signals confidence, which in turn helps you stay calm and collected. The book mentioned studies which show the optimal speaking speed is about 190 words per minute, but it isn't about hitting that number exactly, of course. But slowing down and speaking with intention gives off a relaxed air to listeners.
Now that we've spent some time understanding how body language and communication speed influence our interactions, let's shift gears and delve into something equally important: finding that killer plotline. This isn't about crafting fictional narratives. It's about recognizing the inherent interest in your own everyday experiences and learning how to present them in a way that captivates your audience. The truth is, everyone's life has stories worth telling. You're not going to be able to tell stories if you don't know any, the book reminds us. But knowing them really means the skill of being able to look into your own daily life and find stories that matter and that can be retold in a captivating way. We often dismiss our lives as mundane, especially compared to the seemingly exciting lives of others. But it's this kind of information that can be woven into the foundations of a beautiful story, the book suggests. Think about it. The most captivating stories often come from the most unexpected places. The key is practicing the art of dramatizing experiences. It's about taking a seemingly ordinary event and highlighting the conflict, the emotion, and the unexpected twists that make it memorable. So, what do you do for work? Imagine someone asks you. A typical response might be, "I'm a manager in a supermarket." But consider this instead. I'm a manager in a supermarket, although sometimes I feel like I'm a detective. Just the other day, I had to follow a shady-looking guy around the store Mission Impossible style who looked like he was going to steal several cases of alcohol. See how that simple change transforms a mundane statement into an engaging plotline? The book encourages you to layer your responses with a story, something that happened to you. It's not just about what you do, but what you experience. To find these hidden stories, the book offers some practical tips. First, keep a diary or journal. Keep a diary or journal and write down everything that's interesting that stands out. You'll be amazed at how much you forget by the end of the day. By jotting down daily events, you create a reservoir of potential plot lines. Second, practice meditation and gratitude. This might seem unrelated, but practice meditation and gratitude, a great way to improve your focus as you go about your day, the book states. This mindful awareness allows you to notice the subtle details and unexpected moments that often go unnoticed. Third, and this is critical, put yourself into interesting situations. Put yourself into interesting situations. Take the long road to work, speak to new people, and see what comes up. You never know what experiences will come your way. Don't just passively wait for stories to find you, actively seek them out. Take a different route, visit a new place, strike up a conversation with a stranger. You'll be surprised at the experiences that unfold. Finally,
The book stresses the importance of recalling. By practicing, it will lead to better stories that will come up. The most compelling storytellers aren't necessarily those with the most exciting lives. They're the ones who know how to extract the extraordinary from the ordinary. So embrace the stories that are already unfolding around you. Be observant, be mindful, and be ready to transform the mundane into the memorable. That's how you find that killer plotline.
Now, building on those crucial elements of finding a killer plotline, we need to shift our focus from simply identifying those potential narratives in our lives to actually crafting and shaping them into engaging stories. You might be thinking, okay, I've found a few interesting things that have happened, but how do I turn that into something someone will actually want to listen to? This is where we start developing what the book calls a story collection. It's not about writing a full-blown memoir, but rather having a few well-rehearsed mini-stories at your disposal that you can pull out when replying to commonly asked questions. As the author mentions, these stories will be well-rehearsed, and you'll have experience in retelling them, even if at first that is just telling them back to yourself in the mirror. Think of them as go-to anecdotes that you can adapt to various conversational situations. The key is to focus on topics that naturally come up in conversation. The book gives a few helpful examples: your job, career, or occupation, something that has happened in the last week, any plans you've got coming up in the future, stories about your local area, and stories about your hobbies. Let's take that last one, hobbies, as an example. Instead of just saying, "I like to garden," imagine crafting a quick, engaging story around it. The book offers this example. Last weekend, I watched a pretty mediocre samurai movie, but the ninja guy main character would meditate while working on his bonsai trees. I felt so inspired by the whole scene that I bought myself a bonsai growing kit, the seeds of which I planted this week. I thought you just planted the seeds in the dirt and waited for them to grow, but oh no. The instructions said to soak them in water for 48 hours and then put them in the fridge, where they'll sit for 2 months. The crazy bit, the seeds turned the water a solid swamp water green. So green, in fact, I dropped it out of shock and it stained my worktops. I'm still trying to scrub it out today. See how that simple hobby is now a captivating mini-story? It's about taking everyday situations and sharing them in a way that makes people listen. But the author also notes, this story in itself is not perfect. Why? Because a good story, as the book points out, will always have something relatable in it, which is the element that we'll resonate with the most. Those relatable elements often involve shared emotions, things that make us feel something. We connect with happy endings, with embarrassing moments, even with the touch of shared gossip. We've all been there, and we know what it feels like, for better or for worse, all feelings that make these stories a little more impactful. We all love stories that make us feel. So, how do we ensure our stories feel relatable? One key is to be mindful of the length of your stories. As the book mentions, the length of your story will depend on the context of the situation you're in. If you're chatting with someone in a line, you don't want to go on and on, potentially holding them up and irritating them. If you're an anxious kind of person, then telling a longer story may mean there's more time for you to worry about the delivery of what you're saying. In this case, it would always be better to stick to shorter stories until you're feeling more confident. Always judge the length of your story based on the situation you're in. The book offers a helpful 1-1-1 method for crafting concise stories. Let's take an example from the book. I went on a date last week and immediately dropped my plate of food onto my lap. I didn't know what to do, so I just got up and left without saying anything. Such an embarrassing situation. Can you spot those 3 elements? The action is dropping the food. The summary is leaving the date. The emotion is the feeling of embarrassment. The most important part of ensuring that you are keeping someone engaged and developing a good conversation is that there are many different ways to do it. Keep practicing different ways to engage someone, and don't be afraid to move on if they don't want to take part.
Having explored the wealth of potential found within crafting your story collection, it's time to delve into a practical storytelling technique that will immediately make your anecdotes more engaging: the 1-1-1 method. This method, as the book reveals, is a fantastic framework for telling short stories, especially in the context of small talk. It breaks down the essential components of a compelling narrative into 3 simple elements: 1 action, 1 sentence summary, and 1 emotion. Think of it as the storytelling equivalent of a perfectly balanced cocktail, each ingredient playing a vital role in the overall experience. Let's start with 1 action. This is the core event, the central thing that happened in your story. It's the moment that sparks interest and gives your listener a reason to lean in. Instead of launching into a long-winded backstory, you immediately present the pivotal deed. Think of it this way. You're not telling someone you went to the grocery store, you're telling them you slipped on a banana peel in the produce aisle and did a full-on pratfall. The action is the slip and fall. Next, we have the 1-sentence summary. Now, this isn't about summarizing the entire experience from beginning to end. Instead, it's about providing crucial context and setting the stage for the emotional punch of your story. It's a brief description that tells your listener what happened. Using our banana peel example, the 1-sentence summary could be, "I was reaching for the organic avocados when my feet flew out from under me." It's succinct, providing just enough information to paint a vivid picture in your listener's mind. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, we come to 1 emotion. This is the heart of your story, the element that makes it relatable and memorable. It's the feeling you experienced as a result of the action. The book stresses the significance of conveying emotion in your storytelling because, as it says, every human being wants to be heard and understood by others. It's not just about what happened, but how it made you feel. In our banana peel saga, the 1 emotion might be, "I was so mortified I wanted to disappear into the floor." This simple statement transforms a potentially embarrassing anecdote into a shared human experience. Now, let's see how these elements combine to create a compelling micro-story. "I went on a date last week," you might say, immediately hooking the listener with the action implied in the premise, "and immediately dropped my plate of food onto my lap," now providing a singular action that sets the scene. You might continue, "I didn't know what to do, so I just got up and left without saying anything. Such an embarrassing situation." Here, you sum it all up in a single sentence, landing on a key emotion. But the 1-1-1 method is just the foundation. It's the starting point from which you can build more elaborate and engaging narratives. The book goes on to describe a valuable structure taking inspiration from an unexpected source: Pixar. We're going to list out the points that make up a story structure, but you can add and adjust them however you see fit, the book explains, before divulging the elements used in crafting Pixar's beloved films. Think of films like Toy Story and Finding Nemo. While each film has incredible detail, they follow simple yet effective structures. This begins with setting the foundations. Here, you introduce the characters and build the world. But, and this is important, the book notes this segment should only be used if it affects the rest of the story. The world setting up the events must come. Next, we transition to the introduction. Now you'll introduce a character and their life, what their routine is, and build up tension for the rest of the story. The key here, according to the book, is to keep things quick so you can get to the exciting part. Then comes the introduce conflict stage. A big event happens, something that disrupts the normal flow of life and throws a spanner in the works. Make sure you include the emotion of what happens here. This is the moment everything flips upside down. As an example, a person could be walking along a street, enjoying the sunshine, feeling good, when suddenly a bird swoops down and steals their ice cream. The everyday goal is suddenly interrupted. And as you can imagine, where there is conflict, there are consequences of conflict, and these are not to be ignored. How has the conflict and change affected everything? What are the consequences of the event taking place? Now, this is not where you want to be light on details. The person who lost the ice cream might now feel down and out and feel like their day is ruined. The day has a dark consequence for them. If it's appropriate, the book even calls to build in the further consequences. You can drive home the reality of what is going on and how big the event was. In short, you keep going on with adding tension and details. As the book mentions, 2 conflicts are often ideal. This could include the person finding that all the ice cream stores are closed or are out of their favorite flavor. After that, it's time to share the conclusion. What does the character do to deal with or resolve the conflict? What action needs to be taken? What problem needs to be solved, and how does this happen? You should conclude how the story is wrapped up. The person might go to a grocery store and find that their favorite brand is available in tubs, and they buy 10 of them. And finally, the aftermath. What happened after the conflict was resolved and everyone has moved on? You can include more emotion here, noting if it's a better or worse ending, and how the characters have been affected by the event. The person might then find that they have had too much ice cream, are on a sugar rush, and vow never to eat it again. Of course, this structure is a guide, not a rigid formula. Feel free to adapt it to suit your own storytelling style and the specific context of the conversation. The key is to use it as a framework for building engaging and memorable stories that will leave your listeners wanting more. It is important, as the book also notes, to be mindful of events and situations you find yourself in and be aware of them, because at the end of the day, the stories are up to you and only you.
Cultivating new experiences and routines. Having just explored the one-to-one-to-one method for structuring our conversations, let's turn our attention to something equally vital for engaging interactions and developing as a well-rounded individual: cultivating new experiences and routines. Now, you might be thinking, wait, isn't this book about talking to people? What does my daily routine have to do with it? Well, think about it this way. The more interesting your life is, the more interesting you become. And the more interesting you are, the more easily you'll connect with others and have engaging conversations. The book doesn't shy away from this, diving straight into simple yet powerful techniques for adding more depth and flavor to your life. One of the cornerstones of becoming a more interesting person, as the author suggests, is a simple one: reading more books. Now, I know what you might be thinking. I'm already busy enough. I don't have time to read. But think of it this way. Reading isn't just about ticking off a box on a to-do list. It's about opening yourself up to new worlds, new ideas, and new perspectives. As the author argues, reading is such an amazing pastime because it can not only be entertaining and an absolute joy to read and get lost in other worlds and the lives of fictional characters, but it opens the doorway to more opportunities than you can ever imagine. The author uses a great example to illustrate this point. For example, I just finished reading Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, which I highly recommend, which talks about multiverse theory and quantum mechanics. I also was interested in learning more about quantum mechanics. I went down the rabbit hole and ended up discussing it all with someone at work who shared a love for the same thing. This opportunity came from reading. If I didn't read the books, I wouldn't be connecting with my colleague in a new, interesting, and meaningful way. The point here is that reading is an investment in yourself, and it can lead to unexpected connections and conversations. What's more, the book reminds us that beyond sparking engaging conversations, there's endless research that found that the activity of reading trains your brain to be better at processing information. It can also reduce your risk of age-related cognitive decline, lowers your risk of conditions like dementia, reduces stress, and helps you live longer. So picking up a book isn't just about improving your social skills, it's about improving your overall well-being. But what if reading isn't your thing? What if you're more of a hands-on learner? Well, the book also emphasizes the importance of putting yourself in new situations and switching up your routine. This might sound daunting, but it doesn't have to be. It can be as simple as taking a different route to work, trying a new restaurant, or attending a local event you wouldn't normally consider. The key, as the author notes, is to switch up your routine and do things just because is a great way to keep you on your toes and keep things in your life interesting. It makes for interesting experiences that break up the monotony of everyday life. The author even gives a personal example, stating, "One of the best and simple changes I have made over the last 2 years is occasionally setting my alarm much earlier than normal, so I get up at silly o'clock in the morning, usually around 5 a.m., and then walk to the highest point in my city and watch the sunrise. It's a strange little ritual I do perhaps once a month, and it really does bring so much joy into my life." It's those unexpected moments, those deviations from the norm, that often lead to the most interesting stories and connections. And who knows, you might even discover a new passion or hobby along the way. Ultimately, cultivating new experiences and routines is about breaking free from the familiar and embracing the unknown. It's about actively seeking out opportunities for growth, learning, and connection. It's about becoming a more well-rounded, interesting person, not just for the sake of others, but for your own personal fulfillment. As the book wisely reminds us, there are a million ways to be kind, amazing, fabulous, creative, bold, and interesting. It's simply a matter of choosing to embrace them.
Taking action and going through fear. Having just considered the transformative power of cultivating new experiences and routines, we are now faced with the question, how do we actually do it? How do we bridge the gap between understanding these concepts and putting them into practice, especially when the prospect of stepping outside our comfort zone can be, well, scary? This is where we delve into taking action and navigating the fears that often hold us back. The book highlights a critical element in this process: investing your time wisely. Think of your time as a precious currency, perhaps the most valuable you possess. Are you truly allocating it to activities that nourish your soul, expand your horizons, and contribute to becoming a more interesting, well-rounded individual? As the book nudges us to consider, you need to look at where you're spending it. Are you mindlessly scrolling through social media, passively consuming entertainment, or are you actively engaging in pursuits that foster growth and connection? The author pushes the idea to look into the passive activities and turn them active. Are you watching TV all the time? Binging your social media feeds? Going to the same vacation spots every year? Drinking and partying every weekend? It's fine to do what you love, however, be mindful of the long-term effect. This leads us directly to the next essential component: having interesting conversations. It's not enough to simply want to connect with others. We need to cultivate the ability to engage in conversations that go beyond superficial pleasantries. This is where the art of active listening, thoughtful questioning, and storytelling, all covered in previous chapters, truly come into play. As a critical reminder, if you're asking someone how they are, but you don't really care about the answer, this is going to show up like a house on fire. Instead of lazy, uninspired questions, try to open the conversation like asking someone what personal projects they're working on, what the weirdest thing they've ever eaten is, what items you could find on their bucket list, or if they're learning any new skills. Consider this book's advice. Get answers to these questions like someone's weirdest experience, introduce you to whole new worlds that you didn't even know existed.
These deep dives may also give inspiration and possibly fuel that desire to try it yourself. And finally, the author strongly encourages that we try new hobbies. This may seem self-evident, but the sheer power of engaging in new activities cannot be overstated. It's not just about filling your time, it's about expanding your knowledge, encountering diverse perspectives, and creating opportunities for connection. As the book notes, this doesn't really need a lot of explanation. By diving into new hobbies, you'll also have interesting things to talk about with others. The trick is that these also add to who you are as a person. There's this quote that encourages us to try it for ourselves. Try books you would never normally try, just to see what they're like. This will help you grow and also learn about who you are as a person. But what if fear steps in? What if the thought of trying something new, engaging in a meaningful conversation, or investing our time differently fills us with anxiety? The book doesn't shy away from this reality. It acknowledges that everything that's good in life can be found on the other side of fear. We must embrace that discomfort, recognize it as a sign that we're pushing ourselves beyond our familiar boundaries. This also helps you break the bad habits. Are you watching TV all the time? Binging your social media feeds? Going to the same vacation spots every year? Drinking and partying every weekend? There is no growth in these passive activities, and by trying to fight the bad, you can become more interesting. It is essential to remember that the fear of being uninteresting makes you uninteresting.
And with those fears confronted and our commitment solidified, we're ready to take our conversational skills out into the world. This brings us to another powerful way to become not just a better conversationalist, but a more well-rounded and interesting person: volunteering your time. Think of it like this. Stepping outside your immediate circle, outside of your routine, is like throwing a pebble into a still pond. It creates ripples of connection, of understanding, and of opportunity. This isn't just about feeling good, although that's certainly a perk. It's about actively expanding your social world and opening yourself up to conversations and experiences you wouldn't encounter otherwise. Volunteering offers a triple benefit when it comes to talking to anyone about anything. Firstly, it gets you involved in your local community. Secondly, you are able to take part in world events. And thirdly, it helps you open yourself to people you thought you'd never speak to. Let's start with the local community. How to talk to anyone about anything underscores the importance of building connections within your immediate surroundings. This could be anything from volunteering at a local soup kitchen, as How to Talk to Anyone About Anything shows, and engaging with your neighbors. This provides a breeding ground for conversations rooted in shared experiences. Think about it. Working side by side with others focused on a common goal naturally sparks dialogue. You're no longer just strangers, you're collaborators. You have a shared purpose, and that purpose provides ample fuel for conversation. You might discuss the challenges you're facing, share ideas for improvement, or simply connect on a human level over the shared experience. Beyond that, volunteering locally provides you with unique insights into the issues facing your community. You become more aware, more informed, and therefore more interesting to talk to. Then let's consider those world events. Volunteering isn't just limited to your neighborhood. In the current climate, we have many different organizations dedicated to different political movements, or even just getting supplies to people that need them. Taking part in world events allows your worldview to expand beyond yourself. These often bring together people from diverse backgrounds, cultures, and experiences, creating a rich tapestry of perspectives. By actively participating, you open yourself to conversations that challenge your assumptions and broaden your understanding of the world. And that's where the magic truly happens. Because by getting involved in the local community or taking part in world events, you open yourself to people you thought you'd never speak to. These interactions force you to step outside your comfort zone and engage with individuals whose lives are drastically different from your own. It could be a conversation with someone experiencing homelessness, a discussion with a refugee from a war-torn country, or simply getting to know someone with a drastically different political view from your own. These aren't always easy conversations, but they're incredibly valuable. As How to Talk to Anyone About Anything implies, true connection comes from understanding different perspectives even when you don't necessarily agree with them. These experiences teach you empathy, compassion, and the ability to communicate effectively across differences. And you might just be surprised at the common ground you find. You might discover a shared love of music, a similar sense of humor, or simply a desire to make the world a better place. Volunteering, then, isn't just about giving back to your community. It's about investing in yourself. It's about expanding your social circle, broadening your perspectives, and developing the skills you need to connect with anyone about anything. It's about becoming a more interesting, more compassionate, and more engaged human being. And of course, it provides you with a wealth of stories and experiences to share, transforming you into the kind of person others are naturally drawn to and eager to talk to.
The benefits are unparalleled. Having just explored the transformative power of volunteering your time, let's now delve into a broader perspective: the unparalleled benefits that stem from mastering the art of connecting with anyone about anything. This isn't just about filling silences or making polite conversation. It's about cultivating a richer, more fulfilling existence. And the rewards? They extend far beyond just social ease. Let's start with mental health. The book doesn't explicitly quote research here, but it heavily implies the importance of connection for psychological well-being through Kyle's example. Remember Kyle? The newly divorced friend overwhelmed by the prospect of talking to strangers at his sister's wedding? His isolation, his feelings of inadequacy, these are direct consequences of a lack of social connection, and conversely, an indicator that better communication skills can combat feelings of loneliness and anxiety. By learning to navigate social situations with confidence and ease, you're directly reducing stress and promoting a sense of belonging. You're creating opportunities for laughter, shared experiences, and the feeling of being understood. Think of it this way: social interaction is like a workout for your brain. It stimulates cognitive function, challenges you to think on your feet, and provides a sense of purpose. Just as regular physical exercise strengthens your body, consistent and meaningful communication strengthens your mind. The more you engage, the more resilient you become to the stresses and anxieties of daily life. Now let's turn our attention to self-confidence. This is perhaps one of the most immediate and noticeable benefits. Think back to your own experiences. Have you ever felt your heart pounding, your palms sweating as you approached someone new or entered a crowded room? That's a direct result of a lack of confidence. But as you gain proficiency in striking up conversations, maintaining eye contact, and telling engaging stories, that anxiety begins to dissipate. Each successful interaction reinforces your belief in your own abilities. As the book states, confidence and charisma are skills that can be learned, honed, and practiced. They can even be mastered. And with each successful interaction, your confidence will naturally rise. The ability to read the room, as the book describes, is also key to building confidence. When you understand social cues and adapt your communication style accordingly, you're less likely to stumble or feel out of place. This in turn breeds a sense of control and self-assurance. You're no longer at the mercy of social anxieties. You're actively shaping your interactions and creating positive outcomes. Beyond the tangible benefits of improved mental health and boosted self-confidence, mastering these skills provides you with a profound sense of well-being. This goes beyond simply feeling good. It's about having a clear and accurate understanding of your own emotions, needs, and values. Remember that the book opens with a discussion of your sense of self, and without that baseline, it is near impossible to master any of these skills. By learning to express yourself effectively, you gain a greater sense of self-awareness and become better equipped to navigate the complexities of life. Think of it as tuning into your own internal radio station. When you're comfortable communicating with others, you're also more attuned to your own inner voice. You're less likely to suppress your feelings or shy away from difficult conversations. Instead, you embrace authenticity and live in alignment with your true self. The book hints at this when it mentions authentic living. Being able to express yourself clearly and confidently means you are living authentically, a state in which your actions and words reflect your genuine values and beliefs. This authenticity, in turn, fosters a deeper sense of inner peace and contentment. Finally, mastering the art of communication provides you with increased resilience in virtually every aspect of your life. When you know how to connect with others, you're better equipped to handle challenges, navigate conflicts, and build strong support networks. As the book suggests through anecdotes and other implied means, having meaningful relationships acts as a buffer against stress and adversity. Imagine facing a difficult situation at work. If you have strong communication skills, you can effectively articulate your concerns, collaborate with colleagues, and find solutions that benefit everyone involved. Or consider a personal crisis. If you have a solid network of supportive friends and family, you can turn to them for comfort, advice, and practical assistance. In essence, becoming a skilled communicator is like building a fortress around your life. It provides you with the tools and resources you need to weather any storm and emerge stronger on the other side. As the book argues, your ability to connect with others is the key to unlocking opportunities, building meaningful relationships, and living a life of purpose and fulfillment. The benefits truly are unparalleled.
Understanding the barriers to connecting. Having explored how unparalleled the benefits of connecting with others truly are, it's important to acknowledge the hurdles that stand in our way. It's not always easy, and understanding these barriers is the first step in overcoming them. The book identifies two significant culprits: technology's ruinous effect on our attention spans and the increasingly busy lives we lead, often at the expense of in-person connection. Let's dive into technology first. Think about it. How often are you really present in a conversation? It's almost second nature to reach for our phones, even for a fleeting glance when someone is talking. This constant stream of notifications, updates, and endless content has fractured our attention spans. The author highlights this, stating that we are constantly being pulled away from the present moment, making it difficult to fully engage with the person in front of us. He shares a study showing that when surrounded by technology, students could only study for around 3 minutes at a time. A mere 3 minutes. The book aptly notes, that's such a low attention span. It's not just about actively using technology during conversations, it's the anticipation of it. Our brains are constantly scanning for the next dopamine hit, the next interesting thing, and that makes it nearly impossible to truly listen and connect. We're effectively listening to respond, as the book later elucidates, instead of listening to understand. We're formulating our witty retort, our insightful comment, instead of absorbing what the other person is saying. It's a subtle but powerful shift that drastically hinders genuine connection. Beyond technology, the sheer pace of modern life presents another significant barrier. We are perpetually busy, juggling work, family, hobbies, and countless other commitments. This often leaves little time or energy for building meaningful relationships. The book touches on this common feeling. I understand life is busy and things need to get done. Sometimes multitasking is the only viable solution to make things happen, since it feels as though there aren't enough hours in the day. Think about your own life. How many times have you canceled plans with friends because you were too busy? How many opportunities for connection have you missed because you were prioritizing something else? It's not about judging ourselves, but about becoming aware of these choices. We often tell ourselves that we'll connect later, but later often turns into never. The book argues we need to deliberately make time for connection, prioritizing these relationships above other commitments. This isn't about abandoning technology entirely or suddenly clearing your schedule. It's about conscious effort. It's about recognizing that these barriers exist and actively working to overcome them. The author encourages us to understand these barriers when he mentioned, however, if you want to have meaningful conversations and connect with people, there are going to need to be times when you sit down and talk to each other without the distractions we're typically surrounded by. Just being mindful of our phone usage during conversations, for example, can make a huge difference. The key takeaway here is that authentic connection requires presence, attention, and prioritization. It demands that we actively fight against the distractions of technology and the pressures of a busy life. It requires a conscious choice to put down the phone, clear the schedule, and make space for the people that matter. The author offers an actionable way to consider these connections when he writes, when someone is speaking to you, you can minimize distractions by putting down and locking your phone, switching off the TV, turning off your computer monitor, not eating or drinking while talking with someone. He believes that no matter where you are or what you're doing, whether you're at home or at work, these tips will make your conversations and your relationships far better. In the next section, we'll delve deeper into practical strategies for developing these meaningful relationships. Remember, understanding the barriers is only the first step. The real work lies in actively building bridges across those divides.
Developing strong bonds. We've just navigated the potential pitfalls that can hinder connection, the barriers that keep us from truly engaging with others. Now, let's shift our focus to building bridges, to fostering those meaningful relationships that enrich our lives. The author emphasizes a crucial truth. You simply cannot be friends with everyone. It's not about being exclusive or judgmental, but recognizing that genuine connection requires a certain resonance, a shared understanding that can't be forced. Think of it like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. You might force it, but it won't be a secure or satisfying fit. This naturally leads to the next imperative: always be yourself. This might seem obvious, but its significance can't be overstated. Remember that authentic living is not a dream, but rather a necessity. How can you form genuine bonds if you're presenting a curated or inauthentic version of yourself? The book highlights that being authentically you means you know you're not perfect, and that nobody is, but you're willing to accept your flaws and simultaneously embrace your strengths because they define you more than anything. Think about it. Have you ever felt drained after spending time with someone, realizing you were constantly editing yourself, hiding your true thoughts, or pretending to like things you don't? That's a sign that the relationship isn't built on a foundation of authenticity, and ultimately it won't be fulfilling. The author provides practical ways to make strong bonds. It's about taking time to invest yourself into your relationships. Spend time with your new friends. While the world grapples with varying states of isolation, the author urges us to seek out opportunities for connection that are always available, whether it's socially distanced walks, hosting online events like virtual trivia nights, or sharing a film online. These shared experiences are what deepen bonds and create lasting memories. The author states that dedicating time to each other and making sure it's fair both ways is how relationships grow. That is, whether you're going for a walk, hosting online activities like quiz nights or group Netflix streams, or even just chatting via a video call, spending time with people is a must.
And finally, to really cultivate bonds that last, you need to support each other. It's not enough to just share good times. Real friendship shines brightest when weathering storms together. The book notes that friends become closer than ever when they help each other through hard times. This doesn't just mean dealing with a tragedy or trauma, but instead could just be offering support on a friend's self-improvement journey. That help might come in a myriad of forms: listening, offering advice, or giving a helping hand. But the act of support is always a way to show your genuine intentions. These actions of supporting each other makes the hard times not so bad. In other words, when you're standing with someone you're connected to, the hard times aren't so bad. This is how you go from initial connection to real friendship. As the author put it, it's so important to give people a shot. Having lived with social anxiety for many years, I know it can be hard and scary to open up to other people, but trust me when I say it will be one of the best things you ever do.